have faith. I'm not going to podcast. Now, I replaced the word hell. I've tried to find quotes generally that are negative where the word I'm replacing
I hear
podcast
you, but it doesn't really read.
No, it doesn't. The options are bad.
Sure.
There's this sort of giant monologue that he gives to Christ, asking him to punish him physically. That's one.
Sure.
The taglines for this movie are lusting after sinful pleasures.
That's the tagline?
And then the other one is, this place is evil. Which you could use
this
that
podcast
to describe.
Is evil.
This place is podcast.
Yeah. This podcast is podcast.
Do you know there was also a straight-to-video movie called Thirst, starring Lacey Chabert? How do you say her name?
Chabert.
Which seems to be about people who are literally thirsty for water.
Really?
They're like in the desert and they're thirsty.
It's like Mad Max without cars.
Surrender to the unholy oasis.
So
when is this from?
It's not about those people who hate drinking water to the point that they become dehydrated and have to go to the hospital.
They hate that so much?
There was a story about this a couple of years ago. I can't remember where I read it, but there's a few like prominent people.
Issue water.
There's an athlete, I think, who hates the taste of water, so he would only drink Gatorade or something. But people who would become dangerously dehydrated because they don't like the taste of water, and then would have to go to the ER and get like IVs and everything.
I'm just gonna keep this entirely anonymous.
Wow.
I was at a wedding. They bring around the water pitcher, pour everyone a glass of water. Guy next to me at the table takes out a packet of Crystal Light, pours it into the water.
Oh my God.
I give a glance at his girlfriend. She's like, do you not know this about him? He hates water.
So he has to flavor anything.
He won't drink water
He has
straight.
to like sugar up some
right,
water.
He never chooses to drink water. And if we're in an environment...
Do I know who this is?
No.
Okay.
He might listen, but like if we're in an environment where they're going to preemptively pour water for him, he needs to have like 5 packets of Crystal Light.
Oh my God. Wait, you have to keep that a secret.
That can't be good for his blood pressure or anything.
There's no way that's good for you. You need to drink water.
Not good for anything, exactly.
What do you mean you hate water?
But some people hate water.
Some people hate water.
David
Dunn, Mr. Unbreakable.
True.
Hates it.
Remember Bruce Willis
That's
in
true.
Unbreakable?
Yeah,
he dies at the hands of water.
He dies in a puddle.
Yeah.
Arguably, the water hates him too. It's a two-way street.
The water has a vendetta against
I think
him.
the water's indifferent. I think he just, he meets his match.
I don't know.
In water.
Puddle.
You think it was involuntary manslaughter on the water's part? It'd be hard to arrest water. That's the problem.
Have you ever read the books, The Three-Body Problem, the series of science fiction books?
I have not read them. I know of them. I know there's going to be
being turned into a
Netflix.
very expensive Netflix television show right now. I'm reading the second one right now, The Dark Forest.
Wasn't there also a movie? It hasn't been adapted a couple of times.
I think there was a movie, maybe, and he also wrote
The Wandering
Earth, which was a very big hit.
Yes.
He's got such big ideas always, and one of the billion ideas in the Dark Forest is that one of the people tasked with defeating the aliens, which is what the book is about, comes up with the idea of like making people think thoughts, like encoding thoughts into their brains that they can't get rid of.
Okay.
The idea to be to fill them full of zeal with defeating aliens.
Yeah.
But he tests it by making people think that they don't want to drink water.
Oh.
Wow.
Because he's like, can I do something so fundamentally against their, biological needs and still have it work? And it does work.
So is the villain of this series...
There's no villain. Well, the villain is far away. The villain is really, though...
I'm saying Dasani's not trying to get fucking revenge on this guy?
It's one of those books where I could tell you things about the book for 100 years. And you would be like, that's interesting too. And I'm like, yeah, there's more. I got more ideas.
This guy has so many ideas. It's incredible.
So many ideas.
Yeah.
It's a very loose narrative, sort of, but it's a lot of ideas.
Interesting.
I like them. But I can only read like one of them a year. It's too
many ideas for 1 year.
It's
Too
truly
many
a lot.
ideas.
It's a lot.
Yeah. You know what this is?
I don't know.
You don't know what this is? It's Blank Check with Griffin Theater. You seriously don't know what this is?
Oh, you're right.
We've been doing this for like 8 years. I'm Griffin, though.
I'm David.
That's who we are. It's our podcast. It's about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they leap up the side of a building, baby.
This movie is so good. Do you like this movie?
I do like this movie.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I figured you did.
No, I hate this movie, actually.
It's happened.
We've made that mistake.
It's happened.
A couple times we made that mistake, and people will never let us live it down. I feel like when people have been asking who we're covering next, or people who know that this director won March Madness and was coming up next, this is like surprisingly one of the ones I hear people cite the most as a favorite that they're excited for.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it looms larger than I think. I think it looms larger than I think. That doesn't really work if I say I think 2 times in that sentence.
Did you say the name of the miniseries?
This is a miniseries on the films of Park Chan-Wook. It is called I'm a Podcast, But That's Okay. Today we're talking about his 2009 vampire movie that is, according to Wikipedia, based on Thérèse Raquin.
Thérèse Raquin.
A book that I read in anticipation of this podcast.
You
actually.
did?
I
Really?
did.
You busted out the Emile Zola?
You know
Holy
what
shit.
I did? I read a third of this book, and then I finished reading the Wikipedia synopsis.
More
Fair
than I did.
I recently watched the Oscar-winning biopic, The Life of Emile Zola, because I decided that I had to watch every Best Picture winner ever.
Yes, you finished it. And
Boring.
he just writes that whole book. You have to watch him in real time.
Yeah, he dictates it to someone.
Yeah, do like 4 hours
It's
of writing
like
it down.
the original biopic. Like he's
Yeah.
got mustache and glasses. He's like, oh, I have to write a book.
Right.
You know.
Well, that's like Broadway Melody
everyone was like,
winning
"Brilliant!"
basically for inventing the musical. And they
Right.
were like, we've never
It's
thought
not
of a thing
good.
like that. Right.
Right, yeah.
Biopic, people were
You
just
read
minds
Thérèse Raquin?
blown.
Well, is it how? Well, we'll talk about it. You know what? We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. How inspired it actually is.
I was surprised to see that, because the credit does not exist in the credits of the film, right?
Well, actually, I'm not sure.
In all the like information around it, like the Wikipedia, for
The
example.
Wikipedia does cite
it
it, but
cites it,
Wikipedia is
yeah.
a bit.
That's the other thing. I
All right,
find like
I own this movie. I'm loading it up right now. We're gonna see.
sometimes I find on
Oh,
Wikipedia,
they're burning up again.
if a filmmaker in an
And it
interview
jumps to the
says
end.
like, I was kind of inspired by this, then
Right.
someone will say adapted from.
Right. It says directed by, and then it goes right to the actors. They do credits differently. In
Sure.
Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the name of the movie that we're covering?
We're talking Thirst.
Thirst.
Our guest today, who read 1/3 of a book, which is 1/3 more than
Probably
either of us
rewatch
did.
Thirst.
Rewatch Thirst?
Oh, yeah, I think I did. I don't know.
I think that's a key credit, though. Hoi-Tran Boi. I'm sorry, did I fuck that up?
Yes, you did.
I
But it's
burped
okay.
in the middle of it. Hoi-Tran Bui.
Hoi-Tran.
Yes.
It does say inspired by Emile
Okay.
Zola's Thérèse
Okay.
Raquin in the credits.
Okay.
Screenplay by Park Chan-Wook and Chung Seo-kyung, his usual, I'm sorry if I'm messing those up, his usual collaborator, I feel like, screenplay collaborator.
Entertainment editor at Inverse. I had to get that out. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for reading 1/3 of a book.
Yeah. This is my first time on the show, and I wanted to make a good impression and do some research. And I did my research a little too late in the game.
Hey.
I started reading the book a day and a half ago.
No, but look. hey,
Okay, no, but
pretty
no,
good
no.
pace.
You don't understand. That's the blank check way.
That's blank check way.
Griffin's way, especially where Griffin
Yeah.
will be like, I want to read this whole novel. Well, the episode's on the books. We're
Yeah.
going to record it in about 6 months. I've got time.
Yes.
And then the day before, I'm like, are you ready? And he's like, yeah, I'm just trying to finish this novel. I
Yeah.
started it yesterday.
I got fucking 7 Buster Keaton books on my desk.
There you go.
I made it through 1.5.
It's not bad.
Yeah, but like 6 months ago, I was like, I'm going to be airtight. I'm going to be perfect.
The Buster Keaton expert.
Yes.
We have a researcher. You know.
For the listeners at home, though, we should just sort of mention Griffin's desk is covered.
It's become pretty Griffin-y pretty fast.
Unsurprisingly, it's got a lot of
covered
crap on it.
in,
Well-
napkins from previous lunch orders.
Because you never know when you need another napkin. You never know. And I got 2 batteries.
Yeah.
I have a screwdriver. I have a drawing of Watto that I did. I have a little ectotrap. from
Honestly, this would go
Ghostbusters.
on for so long.
Ben, here, I'm taking this off.
David has a laptop, 2 or 3 records.
Yeah, that I need to take home.
Of
David's
course,
favorite
his,
toy.
trusty
I do have a
tape measure.
He loves using this in the middle of episodes to
For what reason?
poke people.
Oh,
They put it on my desk, and I've just been playing with it.
Well, I left it there by accident, and then of course you just have some various items from your pockets.
Well, I have like my wallet and keys, and I have a glass for water.
Right, and that's what I have. The essentials, like a magnetic floating hoverboard from Back to the Future Part 2, 7 Buster Keaton books. My lunch.
Thirst. We're here to talk Thirst.
Did you see this movie when it came out? What is your...
Yes, what's your history with this filmmaker?
My history of this filmmaker is, like many Asian Americans growing up in the 2000s, I watched most of his movies illegally.
Right.
Shout out to all of those former Kiss Asian 123 website goers.
Sorry, Kiss Asian 123?
Yeah, kissasian123.com. I don't know if it exists anymore. Also, don't go there.
Bad stuff?
My computer's on fire. It seems like it can't be reached.
But yeah, I watched a lot of his movies, really in a really grainy, really ripped from the theater type of way.
Right.
And I think it was recently I went to see not this filmmaker, but I saw The Host at Metrograph, and I was like, wow, it's so weird seeing this in like, total clarity on the movie
quality.
screen. But Thirst specifically, I actually had not seen until last year. So this is a really recent movie for me, and I was just kind of catching up on Park Chan-Wook's filmography. I had seen, the standards, Old Boy, The Handmaiden when that came out, but I'm actually, and I love Decision to Leave last year, but I'm actually not fully caught up with his entire filmography. So Thirst is one of the ones that I was like, I have seen this, and I really, really like this movie, so I would definitely be excited to talk about it.
Cool. I feel like this one got a slightly wider release in the U.S., but Old Boy and The Host are two movies that I think of as, and we've talked about this a lot in this series, but like reading breathless reviews of these movies online and then waiting 2 years for it to come out in the United States. Like by the time it was finally playing at one theater in New York, I felt like I'd been hearing about it forever.
This came out literally like it was at the Cannes Film Festival in 2009. So that's May 2009. It came out in America in July 2009.
Right. This is the point where I think his reputation was big enough here that his movies sort of just got proper releases right away.
And I think, maybe it might be the first example of that because I'm a Cyborg basically did not come out in America.
Correct. Right.
And the Vengeance movies
we went over
were
the
all
weird
pretty much
release strategy of those
in the same year.
Right. And Old Boy was the only one that was kind of given any real shine in theaters. Yeah.
So yes, this is the beginning, I feel like, of him being presented a little more seriously to Western audiences, but also this movie is a 2-hour, 15-minute sex, vampire, virus, romance with lots of tits
movie.
and blood.
Yeah.
And exactly, magic and religion. And I love this movie. I think it might
be your favorite?
My favorite, but I need to rewatch The Handmaiden.
Yeah.
I'm giving away my rankings now. But I do think I remember in 2009 the review was, which is often the review of his films. The review was like, "That's a lot of movie." Ooh, I don't know. It's not for everyone.
I don't think he's ever made a little movie.
No, not really.
Yeah.
But honestly, Decision to Leave felt like his most restrained movie in a lot of ways, even though it's very visually busy. All the same,
and structurally pretty dense.
Yes,
and complicated.
Also, a lot of movie. A movie that drops you in the middle of another movie.
Right. I think he's certainly a filmmaker we've talked about who was really buoyed by peak DVD era.
Right.
And I think Old Boy and the rest of the Vengeance trilogy just very quickly growing in the couple of years after they were released when they suddenly were available at Blockbusters and such.
Right.
It's almost also because now Old Boy is not watchable in the States as it's about to be re-released. They sort of pulled it from everything. And people were complaining about that they haven't been able to watch Old Boy in preparation for our episode. Right, that was like a perennial early Netflix streaming movie. It felt like that was from the moment Netflix started streaming, always up there. But so those movies very quickly gain a much bigger following here in the States after their theatrical release. And then also this movie's coming out the year after the first Twilight movie. I do feel
Sure, there's a lot of vampire in the air. That's fair.
there's a lot of vampire in the air, and I do think there was a pretty quick people being like, "Can I make the art house vampire movie?" You know, I think like Jarmusch talks about Only Lovers Left Alive
Great
being
movie.
like, you can get a vampire movie sold right now. You know,
Yeah, get a couple movie stars say they're vampires. Doesn't matter how
Right.
weird your movie is.
people were
Right.
buying that at that time.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite vampire movie?
My favorite vampire
I
movie.
don't know what my answer is.
What is my answer?
There's a lot of vampire movies.
Guillermo
Yeah.
del Toro's Kronos.
Great movie. I
movie.
love that movie. I haven't seen that movie in years.
Yeah.
That's my artsy answer. My
That's a
other
good answer.
answer, which first came to mind, was What We Do in the Shadows.
Which I love.
Yes.
That is, look, that's an incredibly charming movie.
Yes.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
Got turned into a TV show. I don't know if you know that.
Great
It's
show.
also fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I do forget about it though. Yes.
My answer is Hotel Transylvania.
One?
I think the one is still my favorite.
That's not actually your answer.
No, I'm trying to think what my actual answer is. I don't know.
Nosferatu.
I do like vampire movies.
Me too.
Now I
Vampire
can't
movies
say
are
Love
very-
vampire
Nosferatu.
movies.
Because
Yes.
I said it in a funny voice.
Yeah.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, now I can't say it.
I loved when I was a pretentious teenager, Guy Madden's Dracula, Pages from a Virgin's
Oh,
Diary.
sure.
I like anything with vampires. I'm
I
realizing.
like Blood for Dracula a lot. That's
Sure.
a very enjoyable movie.
Unfortunately, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a very formative part of my
Same.
growing up.
100%.
Yeah.
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 Blade 1, Blade 2.
This is your ranking.
Blade 3.
That's maybe not Blade
Ben,
3.
okay,
you
now
maybe
you're right.
haven't seen that one in a while. But
It's been a
you
while.
cannot say
It's a
that Blade
tougher
Trinity
hang.
is your third favorite vampire movie. We'll accept the first two.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right.
Blade 2 does rule. And Blade
Yeah.
1's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Come on.
Have you watched original Bela Lugosi Dracula recently?
I saw it in a theater with a friend of the pod, Karen Hahn, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago at the
Okay.
Metrograph. Why?
I watched it recently too,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic.
It rules.
And-
Good bad boyfriend movie.
Yeah, good bad boyfriend movie. Oh, the dramatic lighting, the eyes, the just everything Bela Lugosi does.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I mean, my take on this, I know, I think Jamel, our friend Jamel Bui, did a sort of Universal Monsters rewatch in October and hadn't seen that one before and was tweeting through it.
Mhm.
It is very front-loaded. Like, the first 20 to 30 minutes of that thing are fucking unbelievable. Where you're like, well, I'm watching the greatest movie ever made.
Right.
And it's the best performance you've ever seen. And then the stuff when he goes to London is, it drops off a bit. It's all still fun.
You definitely are the most into you're visiting Dracula at his castle and
Yes.
he's going like
Right. Yes.
Behind
And
you.
like Renfield getting converted, all that
Yeah.
shit's, all the little
I-
creatures of the night.
the thing is when I saw it without a score because it doesn't have a score.
Sure.
It's a sound movie with no score because it was like right at the
It's only at the opening.
right. Well, it's got like an overture, but like, there's no music, and so there's these scenes of
Yes.
like someone walking up the stairs and him walking behind
Dead
her with
silent.
no music, which
Yes.
is so odd.
Yes.
But fun, like
Yes.
and unusual. But then of course there are scores that people have written. Like
Mhm.
Philip Glass wrote a score, and I've always wanted to see how
With
it
the score,
feels
sure.
with a score.
Yeah. This movie, he was sort of generating before Old Boy was offered to him. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. All right.
All right. Crack
I'm
open the
opening the
dossier.
dossier. Yes,
Yeah.
this is the longest gestating Park project for sure, Director
Mhm.
Park. He says it goes back to his childhood memories. In the Catholic Church, the priest, this is his quote, a priest drinks red wine as a symbol for the blood of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And this always reminded me of vampirism. I actually wonder why no one thought of that before.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Yeah.
That's how he feels about it. This project was initially called Evil Live.
Hmm.
And he says during making the joint security area, he first thought about sort of whatever, the broader concept of this movie. And then when he's making I'm a Cyborg, but That's Okay, which is his prior film to this, he wrote down, he did a couple of images. One was the birthday cake scene where he turns her into a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other was him being turned into a vampire at the beginning, the main character. He was like, the protagonist will be a priest turned vampire, and he will eventually turn someone else into a vampire. Everything else he had to figure out.
I thought it's a good starting point. When does he figure that out? Is this sort of like gestating in his mind only as that?
No, okay. He was making a short film called Cut. Have you ever seen this? I have not.
I have not seen this
I
one.
assume none of us have seen this. There's an omnibus film called Three Extremes.
Yes.
He's contributed a lot of shorts to these kinds of projects over the years. He was making Cut, and I guess that has a female vampire character with silver teeth, false teeth, which she uses to punch holes in the victim to get their blood. Like, she doesn't have fangs, but she has like these fake teeth that she puts in.
Yeah, smart.
I don't know. That sort of starts the ball rolling for him again. And then he picks up Emile Zola's Thérèse Raquin, and that, for whatever reason, is what, he decides to fuse onto this story, and it becomes Thirst. He'd been planning Thirst for about 10 years, and then he came across the book. He liked that the book was not romantic or sentimental, which was the approach he wanted to take with Thirst. So we need to talk about Thérèse Raquin.
Yeah.
Because I think the stuff that he's taking from the book is like the mother, right? And all that stuff.
Well, as someone who read 1/3 of Thérèse Raquin, he actually took quite a bit from this book to the point that I was quite surprised, because it's not just the mother, it's the whole setup of how the affair starts and sort of with the wife and this repressed woman who is stuck in a loveless marriage and starts an affair with the friend of her husband.
Right.
And then they end up starting this torrid affair ends up ending in murder. So it actually is quite similar to the book, and even has some, like, in addition to the broader beats, even has some scenes that are
like
basically ripped right out of the book.
Right,
like the scene where, if I'm allowed to go into spoilers.
You can.
Absolutely.
Please, spoil away.
Yeah, he's a vampire, by the way. That's the biggest spoiler.
Oh, the scene where they first start the affair, and she kind of breaks into this confessional of all of her pent-up feelings and her hatred for her husband and her hatred for her mother-in-law, that kind of comes spilling out as they're like in the throes of intimacy and passion. That is from the book itself, and that is also, very much basically done straight in the movie.
Wasn't there the recent English language Thérèse Raquin direct adaptation? Was it the Oscar Isaac?
Yes, it was called In Secret.
Great title.
And it starred Oscar Isaac and Elizabeth Olsen,
Oh.
and then Jessica Lange as the mother, the domineering aunt or mother or whatever.
Let me guess, Jason Clarke is the husband?
Weirdly, Hollywood's #1 cuck, Jason Clarke.
It's a recurring discussion on the show.
He has been cheated on many times in films.
He has, it's true.
It almost feels like a contractual requirement.
It did not get that role. It went to, instead, Draco Malfoy himself, Tom Felton.
You know what? He could, if Jason Clarke doesn't
energy.
watch his back,
He has to change his name to Jason Cuck, that's why.
he could.
Well, he tried, right?
Yeah.
Do you like Felton?
I do like Felton.
I'm sort of pro Felton.
I am pro Felton. I'm not I wasn't one of the
You weren't like a
falling
Draco
over,
girly.
swooning
Right.
over
Sure.
Draco kind of person, but I'm fond of him. I actually.
He came off very well in that documentary retrospective thingy.
Mhm.
That,
he seemed very just centered, I guess.
Yes, not an asshole.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember his short stint on the CW's The Flash, and I enjoyed him in that.
Interesting.
Was he
Who
on
did he
The
play?
Flash? Ooh, Alchemy.
He was,
Dr. Alchemy.
Dr.
sorry.
Alchemy, yeah.
Okay.
He was a newcomer to Star Labs and sort of
newcomer
a
to Star
a
Labs.
foil and foe to Barry Allen.
I think my wife was definitely still watching The Flash when he was on. I remember seeing him on The Flash. It's always interesting. He also did, he's in one of the Planet of the Apes. Is he the first one?
first
He's the
one.
bad guy in
Yeah.
it, right?
He played a great jerk in that.
Yes, he's a jerk in that. I remember he's a jerk in Belle, right? Remember Belle?
Oh, the Goo Goo movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
You know how
right.
Belle, I always...
People are mean to her.
Right. Some
Yeah.
people are like, well, Belle, I accept you, even
Yes.
though this is unusual. And he's like, well, I don't accept you.
Absolutely not.
I think you're bad. And this is all bad. That's his role.
Great Tom Felton impression.
I do imagine it must be. I mean, I think he's talked about that he had a serious drinking issue for a while. He kind of hit a wall for a bit there and took a couple years off of acting. I do think it must be tough to be like, you're always going to be seen as sort of like a sniveling asshole. Like,
Right. You
Draco
played the
Malfoy,
ultimate
you just did it for 10
rich
years.
kid, teen
People
jerk.
watch you age into doing it, even though that character essentially kind of redeems himself by
He
the end.
sacrificed his hairline to that bleach blonde hair.
He did.
To ruin his hair.
Yeah.
Them just like dumping that
Just,
stuff
like,
in his
acid
hair.
wash.
Peroxide.
Yeah. But like all the parts we're listing, even though we're like, he's good, he's always good, you're like, he always is playing stuff that's kind of Draco adjacent. That must be frustrating.
I still remember, I think it's in it's in Azkaban, the movie, where he suddenly, the first two movies he has like the sort of slick back hair. He's a little twerp.
Yes.
And then in the third movie, I feel like he got the
gets-
kind of emo.
He gets
like,
bangs.
Right, right. And I remember I was with my friend Hannah seeing a movie. The trailer plays. You see him. He's like blowing like a little like a paper animal into the sea. He's got this like, and she just went like, like the fact that they were fucking with things and making people look a little more like contemporary teen was so shocking to us. We were like,
people were so fucking angry when that movie came out, and they're like, they're wearing like jeans.
Right, they wear jeans in that movie.
How dare they?
Right.
Yeah,
That they let
they're
them
in,
get
like,
out of
sweaters
uniform.
and jeans and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. They spend half the movie. Hermione's just like in a hoodie.
Right, and it's like, you wouldn't wear your uniform when you're fucking traiping through the woods. You don't need to.
On an illegal mission.
Yeah.
Right, and like their uniforms are like robes.
Yes.
You need to be able
Cumbersome.
to move. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
That movie's good.
It is.
Azkaban, very good. Yes,
The best Harry Potter movie.
Unquestionably in my mind.
I think 6 is the best, but I think Azkaban's the second best.
Wow.
But
Is
Half-Blood Prince
Dobby
is
in this
incredible.
one?
Dobby's not in Azkaban.
That is not good.
Maybe
Ben hates Harry Potter aside from Dobby. He had never
Big
watched any of
Dobby
them
stan.
until like 2 years ago, and then is only into Dobby.
But Dobby's only in like 2 of the movies.
Well, those are the two that I like.
because he's in more of the books, but I feel like they were just
Yeah.
kind of like, let's not bother with Dobby.
Do you like
on this
Dobby
one.
better pre-makeover or post-makeover? Like after he loses all his wrinkles, gets some Botox.
Well, don't make me decide. Because
You love all Dobby.
I love all Dobby all the time. I can't pick.
Dobby's just one of those million things. And we can't do this in Harry Potter, where you're just like, she didn't know what she was fucking doing. Where it's like, he has unlimited powers. He's like very, very powerful. But they're like, but you know, house elf magic is sort of restricted.
And he likes to wear a pillowcase, so that means he's a weird little guy.
Right. And then you're just like, this guy can just like do anything. He's popping around all the time. He can like levitate shit. Whatever.
Look, it's. I was thinking a lot about Twilight while watching this movie, just because it's so of this peak Twilight period.
Yeah, but imagine if Twilight had pulled all this crap.
Well,
imagine if Robert Pattinson was covered in boils and stuff.
Pinning that. We'll get back to that.
Robert Pattinson's going to hear this, and he's going to be like, interesting.
I need to actually get boils.
Robert Pattinson's very active on our subreddit.
He's not. That's
Hazar Bulbasaur. But you know, what was I thinking? No, Stephanie Meyer, it's like obviously that was like someone who like wasn't really thinking about, like, she's just writing all this shit.
like how her world works. Or
right.
Like, you know,
and it's like the obvious ding you throw at it. And then with like 20 years distance looking at J.K. Rowling stuff, you're like, basically all the same criticisms could apply here, even if she did it more elegantly.
Yeah, she throws time travel into the third one.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. We don't need to. She's done a lot of bad things.
Where?
All right. So Thérèse Raquin, he felt reading this book rather initially director Park's notion of like Sang-hyun, who's the main character, would have this moment where he caught himself in the mirror seeing what he was doing as he's like, you know, descending into vampiric madness, and that would be this like sort of shocking moment for him. And then he was like, what if it's a person who's the mirror? Like, what if it's this mom, like, sort of semi-comatose or whatever, petrified, basically. And, like, she's sort of, like, watching everything that happens, even though she can't do anything. And that becomes the sort of, like, thing they can't escape, the terrible guilt.
You were saying the mom dynamic is similar in the book. Does she similarly, like, does she have a stroke? Is she frozen in the same kind of way?
Yes, it's actually very similar. She has a stroke. She's paralyzed. They take care of her, but then as they're arguing during the sort of falling out, her eyes move. I think her eyes move. She learns of the murder of her son that they committed, and then the guilt also drives them mad. It's the same. It's pretty similar, actually. I think they hallucinate his body in like various places.
I was about to say, does they have a scene where they have sex and his wet body is between them, going like, ah!
Don't mind me.
It's quite similar, and they also drowned him. I think the drowning in the book actually is much more practical than the one that they do in the movie, where they're like, well, let's go fishing at 9 p.m.
Right. Of course, they have superpowers in this movie too, right? But
it's just interesting. This and Handmaiden are both him adapting books from different cultures and putting a lot of different stuff onto the bones of it.
Right.
Which more people should do in terms of adaptation of like...
Yeah, but like most people aren't as talented as this guy.
Are boring.
I also think it's really interesting that they're both English novels and they're both very extremely English, and he finds some commonality with that and Korean culture or history in some way.
Right.
And I think that's fascinating in that sort of like cultural exchange. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, he does think, on reflection, that it's funny that he took a very realistic book, essentially.
Sure.
It's like a psychological
and put a vampire
thriller.
film inside.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
He's like, this is good, but what if it had vampires?
He says it's fortunate that Emile Zola passed away 100 years ago because he might have had some notes otherwise. But anyway. Griffin, silence please. I am here now to talk about the new film from Ira Sachs, director of Love is Strange, Keep the Lights On, Little Men, Frankie, many more. Great American independent director. He has a new film that is out in theaters right now called Passages, starring Franz Rudegowski, the star you guys might know from movies like Transit, Great Freedom. It's got Ben Whishaw, Paddington himself, recently in Women Talking, and the wonderful Adele Exarchopoulos from Blue's the Warmest Color and The Five Devils. It's a seductive drama set in Paris. It's about Thomas and Martin, a gay couple whose marriage is thrown into crisis when Thomas begins a passionate affair with Agathe, who is Adele's character. It's a very fresh, sexy, funny, brutally honest take on messy modern relationships. It was at Sundance this year, and it is great. It's being released by Mubi. It's in theaters now in New York and LA. It's expanding. It came out on August 4th. It's expanding to cities nationwide through August. I fully recommend it as a theatrical experience because it is just very exciting to see a movie this like spiky and sexy in release, especially this summer. So go check it out. Passages opens only at theaters in New York and LA on August 4th and expands to cities nationwide throughout August. Visit movie.com/passages to see showtimes and get tickets. That's mubi.com/passages. He starts writing the screenplay now that he has this.
Mm-hmm.
He starts writing it with his co-writer. And then he thinks like, oh, is this going to be like too bleak? Is this not going to be funny? He's then surprised when he makes the movie a few years later. And he's like, I think it's the funniest thing I've ever made. Which is sort of, you know, arguably, I'm a Cyborg is more nakedly funny. But that's actually honestly more of sort of a sweet movie.
Yeah.
This movie is kind of absurd and funny and like heightened. And
I want to say several times during my notes when I was doing my rewatch, I said, this is a comedy.
It definitely is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very, very sort of gonzo comedy, really.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially during the corpse sex scene.
Especially during all the corpse sex and all the like inexplicable wetness. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's one of my favorite sort of weird like reality breaking into, you know, fantasy things that he does. Anyway. The main character, he says, you find comedy and humor looking at the protagonist. He can't let go. He's trying to hold on to his faith and his newfound identity as a vampire. Mm-hmm. It's a desperate struggle to hold on to these two ideas, which are mutually exclusive. In this struggle, you can see funny things take place. So it can be said that the audience that laughs the most watching this film are the ones who understand the tragedy of the character the most. He's always just very profound.
Yes.
So he did like horror movies. As a young man, he says, when I was poor, I would watch a lot of horror movies on like an old small TV. I scare very easily. He's like, I can't actually handle a real horror movie. I need to watch it as like a shitty VHS tape to not be scared of it.
Wow.
I bet he would watch it on kissasian123.com.
Probably would. Probably loved Kiss Asian 123.
That's wild for someone whose films are so bloody, though. Although I guess there are other examples of that where you hear
of like
that,
horror directors who are fraidy cats.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, well, I like doing it because I'm in control.
Right. I'm purging. Right. Yeah. These fears.
I see the process going into it being phony baloney. Yeah.
His concept of vampirism, he basically made it like a disease. He wanted to take a fairly realistic approach. So no fangs, no bats, right? No hunchback servants or fear of garlic or the stake through the heart or any of that stuff. That's all gone. So basically, I feel like it gets boiled down to thirst for blood. Can jump and shove.
Yeah, super strength.
Jump shove powers.
Yes.
Can't be in sun.
He can punch a street lamp and run away in one of the funniest scenes of the movie.
Yeah.
But that's basically it, right? Like it's fairly stripped down, this form of vampirism.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't have heightened senses. Although they do, there's the effect that's so great of him basically seeing people's veins.
That is cool.
Which is done very subtly.
He does have the heightened sense when he first sort of turns vampire, because he wakes up from passing out and he can hear things on the floor below, and he can see the little like bacteria on his skin, that kind of stuff. That
shot of just the camera panning over and you seeing like his back basically roasting.
Yes. I also think this is a funny quote where he's like, he can't have a fear of the cross because he's a Catholic priest, so that wouldn't make sense. And then he's like, and also in Korea, all the food you eat has garlic in it. They put garlic in everything in Korea, so if you're scared of garlic, there's not a drop of blood you can feed on in Korea. It's kind of a funny gag.
If someone's eaten garlic in vampire lore, can you not drink their blood?
I think it makes them sick, right? According to,
maybe like a little garlic could be bad.
So I think when I read Bram Stoker's Dracula, it was just like he didn't like garlic, but it didn't make him like, you know, it didn't totally fend him off. It was just like this stinks.
I know vampires hate garlic.
I know you know that.
I'm saying.
Yeah, you're saying like if I ate a bunch, if like a vampire was like about to eat me and I was like, man, I cook with a lot of garlic.
That's my question, is like, because usually it's like fucking Van Helsing throwing a whole clove of garlic in his face or whatever.
Right.
If you want to keep vampires away, do you just need to take like garlic supplements 4 times a day?
Do you?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Well, they probably won't find out till after, though, is the problem.
Well, you shake the bottle.
Yes.
You go look at.
You have to walk around with a sign saying, I eat garlic supplements.
Pop it in front of him.
All right. Director Park's favorite vampire movies, Nosferatu. Heard of that one?
Yeah.
Martin, the George Romero movie.
I've never seen and people love.
I have never seen either, and I would love to see.
I think it's about to be re-released, restored.
Makes sense. They're all sort of good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think just got restored. Available if you want it.
There was a director's cut with like an extra hour that was lost forever, and I think they just recently found it.
That's cool. I want to check that out. He loves that movie. He also loves The Addiction by Abel Ferrara, which is one of my favorite movies in the 90s. You ever seen that?
No.
Lily Taylor. It's a whole AIDS metaphor, early 90s.
Yeah.
Very, very cool movie.
I'm seeing here it said, I'm more of an HT2 guy. That's his favorite because I like hard jokes.
Right. Heavier on the jokes.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't want to do the classic stuff. He does think The Addiction is probably the closest line you could draw. Similarly, quote unquote, realistic movie, like set in our world.
Yeah.
And her deal basically boils down to she wants to suck your blood. That's like the main thing.
That is explicitly a vampire movie?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's not. You know, it isn't. It isn't.
Well, look at you.
That also recently got restored. There's an Arrow of it that I bought. Cool. Really good.
Yeah.
He also loves everyone's favorite movie, Possession.
Yeah.
You know, the movie that no one knew about until 5 years ago, and then suddenly everyone on Twitter watched it at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm being snarky. Have you seen that movie, the Sam Neill?
I have seen it, yeah.
It's a very good movie.
I guess I didn't consider it a vampire movie.
No, he's more like the sort of aesthetics of that.
Oh, I see.
The bloodiness, like all of that. But no, that's not a vampire movie per se.
This is just one of his influences. Gotcha.
Yes. He does like that film. That is a great film. I don't mean to be snarky.
No,
it's just kind of funny how everyone watched it.
I'm sorry, that's how I learned about it too.
Exactly. Me too. We're all the same.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you had watched it before.
I saw maybe about 5 years ago in a theater.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember telling you I'd seen it. You went, why?
I said, why?
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. Everyone talks about it on Twitter. I should go see it.
Right. It was a famous video nasty, that one.
Right. That's Britain. The other thing. It was out of circulation for a very long time.
And it came back. And then
banned in many
like,
countries.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a chill movie.
No. That was the other. It was banned for a while. It was out of circulation. And then there was like a Blu-ray that cost $150 and they made like 20 of them.
I mean,
they
always a good
like
way to gin up some
Cremaster
buzz.
Cycle thing where it's like, yeah.
He also likes Ingmar Bergman's Thirst.
Okay.
Mostly coincidental. And he likes Cronenberg movies. Sure. So do I. Okay, so yes, he was raised in a Catholic family.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does think that's a little bit of, whatever, why this idea sort of is transfixing to him.
Because the character is not a priest in the novel?
No, the character isn't the same in the novel at all. It's just some random hedonist that she starts an affair with, not a priest at all.
Right.
He's a hedonist.
Yeah, he's just some guy who wants to live an idle life, as they describe many times.
Right, because Thérèse is that's the lady.
That's the lady.
She's the protagonist. And Camille Right.
Camille is her husband.
Is her husband. And then...
Laurent.
He's no good. This Laurent. And they end up, not to spoil the end of Thirst, but the end of Thirst is that they killed themselves, essentially. And the novel has the same ending, right? They sort of take a final embrace and kill themselves.
Doom the mother-in-law at the same time.
Yeah. So basically the guilt from killing Camille, her husband, drives them mad, and then they decide to finally commit suicide together. And the mother, I think, just left to her own devices, knowing all of that happened.
Right. Yeah. But the fact that she's always there means they can like never escape the guilt of what they did. Even if she can't
She's the flesh and blood specter.
It's such a good idea. And Emile Zola. So this film was co-financed by Universal Pictures.
Right.
Mostly done by CJ Entertainment, the big Korean company. Yeah. But that was a pretty big deal. It was the first ever Korean film to land U.S. distribution before its local premiere in Korea.
Okay.
Now, obviously, it only made like $300,000 in America, but still, that's not nothing for a movie this audacious, I would say. In 2009.
Because Old Boy made about, I forget when we said in that episode, but similarly, I think they just knew these movies exploded on home video.
Sure. Yeah. Old Boy made like $700,000. The other two Vengeance movies made next to nothing.
Right.
But this movie was a big hit in Korea.
Yeah. It talked about in the Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance episode, I think, how I think one of Director Park's strengths is getting into scenes late and getting out of them early. That sort of like disorientation, but also sort of just like dropping you into the most interesting part of the scene without the shoe leather.
Right.
And leaving you with a sense of ambiguity and not immediately filling you in on the space between sequences.
Right.
There's just something to, especially since it is his creation, is not anything from the novel that he's taking. The introduction to this character of like, here is this entirely respected man of the cloth who just kind of is filled with like deep ennui and unhappiness, right? This guy who like everyone else looks to for balance, who's just like, I don't know, what the fuck am I doing? You know? And like a lot of other movies would be about this guy's downward spiral, triggered by something.
Sure.
And you basically just start at the point where he's like, I don't know, just fucking inject the virus into me. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You know? Like minute 5, he's getting injected.
And he never actually acknowledges the fact that he has some sort of existential crisis or problem. Like I think during the interview with the experimenter who asks, are you doing this for martyrdom or for suicide? And he says, my prayers work fine. And it's obvious that he's in some sort of denial about all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no clear catalyst for it. We don't know how long this has been going on with him.
Right, and there's like this made-up virus in this world that needs to be cured, and he's ostensibly, looking for, he's a test for that.
But there's that scene early on where he's taking confession with this woman, and he's just like, I don't fucking know. None of this matters, He's like very dismissive to everything she has to say.
Also, she kind of scolds him in that scene, doesn't she? He says something like, turn to science, get some antidepressants. And she's like, worry about matters of the spirit, don't worry about matters of the earth or something.
Right, I didn't come to a priest for that advice, essentially. Song Kang-ho is so good at that, though.
Yes.
At the ennui.
Yes.
At the weight of the world being on it.
But any other movie would over-explain, I think, why he chooses to take the virus, right?
Right.
And even just the idea of, yes, he's presenting it as some act of nobility. This guy can't even really pretend that's what's going on here. What's the virus called?
The Emmanuel virus.
Yes, EV.
EV.
Which I guess like makes you break out in weird hives or blisters.
Yeah. You start puking blood.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good. Bad. This is you already brought up What We Do in the Shadows. This movie reminds me of that a lot in terms of how obsessed it is with just the inconveniences of being a vampire.
Right.
Just like the petty existence of it.
Right. True pain in the ass. Especially if you're a vampire who's not going to just like wantonly murder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if he doesn't drink, then he will die because the EV will return.
Yeah.
Right. The blood keeps it at bay, ostensibly. This is the sort of like pseudoscientific form of vampirism. Right. He also heals. That's the other thing.
Yes.
Because there's the whole thing where he's like cutting his wrist and then it heals up before he can get the blood.
Right. He can let the lead clergyman touch his heart inside his chest.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so, okay. Catholic priest, kind of whatever, on the outs with his job.
Kind of on the outs with life.
On the outs with life.
Yeah.
Gets this injection, becomes somewhat of a miracle man. People want to spend time with him now because he survived the virus.
Yes.
And he's already a priest, so people are like, you must be, you know, imbued with miracle powers or whatever.
Which I think seems frustrating to him. You get the sense he just was hoping he could die and be relieved of all this. And instead it's like, not only do you have to keep living, but everyone now looks to you even more for guidance, for like magic. People want him to solve all the world's problems now. I love this early section where he's got like the invisible man look with his bandaged head and hands.
Yes.
That's what I thought too.
And just the tufts of hair poking out.
I was going to say, kind of going back to what his wishes were, there's that scene where he has come down with Evie and he's in his room. He's writing a letter. I don't even know who to, but saying like, oh, I have the nicest hotel, like room in this hotel, because they said I was handsome and I have a nice tan. And he like picks at his nail and it comes off and his boils all over his face and he's playing his flute and he just throws up all over his flute.
Oh, yeah,
the
when it
blood
all comes out of the
pouring
recorder.
out.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is very, very good. Very gross. Very inventive.
It's great. It's just like he's really happy dying away.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe,
he is.
yeah, kind of what he wants, I guess.
Yeah.
You're watching this movie, I feel like. You got guys in robes, you got priests, you got blood viruses.
Sure.
You're definitely not thinking like this is going to turn into like a whole, you know, love triangle, sex murder thing, right? Like you don't see this being a romance.
Vampire Priest is already kind of
It's
its
a
own
lot.
movie.
It's already thematically rich. It's
Right.
like, you know, because the priest is the sign of chastity and spiritual, like higher power. And
Yeah.
then the vampire itself is a representation of all of the, you know, lust and
Yes.
temptation.
Yeah. I mean,
100%.
you know, there are much better studies done of sort of like the primal roots of all the classic monster archetypes. But vampires are like always about sex. They're always about sex and power and control.
And the sexy other.
Yes.
Bad boyfriend.
Bad boyfriend.
Bad boyfriends.
I
It's
just
true.
think a lot of movies like Dracula are about like, what if your daughter, whatever, you know, the lover, wife had a bad boyfriend.
Right. And a lot of movies like the Twilight Saga are about what if your daughter had the best boyfriend of all time.
but he was a good boyfriend because he was like, I can't fuck you, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
He's a good boyfriend who doesn't want to be a bad boyfriend.
Exactly.
Right. But he's so afraid of being a bad boyfriend. Don't get near me.
The
You
thing
smell
that makes
crazy.
him a good boyfriend is that he understands that he's evil. That is sort of the thesis of the Twilight movies.
But like, especially with Dracula, like the whole notion of like, come to my castle.
Yeah.
I'll make you dinner.
Yes.
I've got candles.
Yeah.
You know, all that. It's
I
like,
thought you were going to say, I've got candy, because I thought that
I've
would
got
be even better.
candy. Yes.
Trick or treat.
Sour Patch Kids plus the watermelon one. Oh, some
Three
people like those
Musketeers,
better.
But not the fun size, the full bars.
That's a lot of nougat. No, just, you know, like the way Dracula lays on airs and he's so seductive,
Yes.
of course.
No,
you
but
know.
that's all. Vampire Boi is about seduction and ceding control to someone else, someone having power over you, you know, and no longer having control of your own body.
Yes.
Be it because of the other person or because of the effect it has on you, having these desires that you can't control and all that sort of stuff.
And, you know.
And
he
then
can be
there's
your
just
thrall.
the very
He can be your
literal
thrall.
metaphor of bloodlust.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You must have blood.
Yeah.
You cannot be controlled. You can't be held accountable for your actions.
But this is a guy who almost seems to have resentment that anyone looks up to him, takes him seriously, turns to him for guidance, that he holds any power in the community, right?
Right.
He's basically just like, let me fucking die. Let me rot away. Is thrilled when he's dying, hates when he gets better, and then I think seems almost most depressed in this era where everyone thinks he's a miracle man.
Yes, of
Before
course.
he's really identified what's going on inside him internally,
Right,
but is
because
suddenly
he didn't
just...
even do anything.
No.
He just like didn't die.
And now there are just
Right.
more expectations placed on him, more responsibility placed on him.
He wants to disappear and be invisible man.
Yeah.
Which is why I think he connects so deeply and violently to Teju, who is considered invisible within her own family and by her own mother-in-law and by her own husband.
Right. So when he's making the rounds at hospitals, he runs into this one patient who it turns out is a childhood friend of his.
Right.
Who recognized him. Does he still have the bandages on at this point?
He does not.
No, he doesn't. Okay. And invites him over for their weekly mahjong game he does with his mother, his wife, his friends.
Mm-hmm.
And very quickly, yes, I think he's drawn to her as almost like that's maybe where he wants to be.
Sure. Yeah.
He seems like uncomfortable with the amount of power he has in his life, right? And there's a certain degree to which, like, she is someone he actually wants to help versus everyone else he's like, fuck, right? Don't talk to me.
Well, so they're a family.
Yeah.
It's ostensibly sort of a warm environment. They're playing mahjong, right? It's colorful in there, kind of.
Well, that's this environment as a whole, but why he's so immediately kind of latched onto her is like her life has like an order and a structure to it that is perhaps not what she would choose, but it's like she actually does have. Everyone just expects that he can do anything, can roam around, has kind of complete freedom and control in his life, and to a certain degree, I think he envies the fact that she is kind of kept.
That she has no expectations for her.
She has no expectations, and she's just sort of resigned to what she is told to do around her. Because the more leeway this guy's given, the more upset he seems, the more depressed he seems, the more suicidal he seems.
Right. He likes, hey, I don't mean to speak ill of priests.
Yeah.
But I do feel like you might crave order, rules, a way to go about your day.
Right.
Someone telling you what to do.
Yeah, being unable to stray outside. And priests never obviously stray outside of their rules or anything like that, or never behave badly.
No, never.
But I just mean the structure of religion, I think, can be comforting for people. Right?
This seems like a guy who perhaps pursued theology looking for that order and control and purpose in his life, and then got to the top of the mountain and kind of feels like, maybe I don't believe in any of this. This is not giving me any answers.
There's an interesting line at the beginning of the movie where the blind priest tells him he told him to go to medical school, but then he pursued priesthood instead, I think, which I think is an interesting character trait that they don't really follow up on, but I think also kind of lends to his whole weird crisis that he's going through too. Like he wanted to be a man of medicine and maybe a man of the earth, but then he turned to be a man of the cloth instead. And then now he's kind of in that in between too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good point. Yeah.
Someone just sent me a real estate listing for a 3-screen colonial theater in Maine.
Who sent this to you?
Some rando.
What's like a listener of the podcast?
Yeah. Twitter,
Okay.
Should we buy it?
Well, that's a big question.
Oh, that looks cool.
This looks great. It's in Maine?
Yeah.
Where in Maine?
Belfast, Maine.
Yeah, I'd say
sounds like
again,
real Stephen King country, doesn't it?
Sure. What it costs is probably the big question there in terms of whether or not we should buy it.
$1.3 million.
I don't think we should buy it.
No.
Fuck.
Yeah.
God damn it. It just looks so nice.
It does. I agree.
It's not close.
Yeah.
No.
I can't
It's
see it
pretty
being
far.
You can
convenient.
summer there.
Yeah, you could summer. They're Vacation Land, famous.
Yeah.
It's an 8-hour drive from New York.
You and I have talked about
So
this.
we could do like an 8 p.m. screening and be like, leave at lunchtime.
Exactly.
You'll be here in time for the movie.
You and I have talked about that's like our one absurd rich person dream.
Sure, to own a theater and
Yeah,
like do whatever
operate a
you
movie
want
theater.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
Maybe just not in Belfast, Maine.
They have a bus stop?
A single bus stop.
They have one. How long's the bus ride? 10 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 10, 12 hours. I think I'm going to buy this theater.
You're going to buy the fucking... What's it called?
Great question.
David, here's all I'm going to say. If I find out you bought this theater, I demand we crack open the books of blank check finances, because if you
think something
suddenly
might be
have the
afoot?
liquidity to buy this fucking movie theater for over $1 million,
What would be the inaugural film that you would show at this theater?
Incredible question. And I don't know the answer. Ponyo, probably. My favorite movies, right? Master
Sure.
and Commander.
What's the first movie you ever covered on this podcast?
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Heard
So
of
it's going to
it?
be Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
It would.
Hey, Disney, I got a proposition for you.
yeah.
It's called The Colonial.
Okay. The original bit of the show is that we only covered the Phantom Menace, and we thought we were going to do that forever. So I think if we bought a theater, we'd have to just only play Phantom Menace for 4 months. and then be like, never mind, we're actually going to branch out as a theater.
We'd actually make some money if we did that.
We would.
Anyway, wow, it's really far up
You would
there.
go from showing only half-hour increments of The Phantom Menace and then suddenly start showing like 2.5-hour movies.
Yes, exactly. Yes. A great metaphor for podcast length creep. David, you have to close this tab.
I'm
this
closing
is not,
it. It's gone. Thirst.
Let this dream die.
No, I'm going to keep it open, though. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe someone can go in on it with me.
I happen to have $0.3 million
You got 0.3?
flying
Girl,
around.
Just need the one. Need that big one.
You got 2 left.
Tim Simons is from Maine.
Yeah. Well, you want to get...
Hey,
David...
Tim, have I got the 2 tallest men go into the movie business together? We could call it Tall Boy Theater.
Yeah, you should get Stephen Merchant to invest in
Theater is good.
And we
Griff,
could
this has
sell
got
Tall
legs.
Boys in the lobby. I'm seeing here Maine won't let
This
me
has
have
got
liquor
legs.
license.
Sorry, I just got that.
Tall Boy Theater's got legs. David, you know the old adage they say,
Yeah.
don't fall in love with the first movie theater up for sale you look at.
Yeah, right.
The very common adage.
Yeah.
The next day, like a triplex in Brooklyn, like 4 blocks from my house is for sale.
Just put a movie theater
like,
alert.
shit, I'm moving to Belfast.
Put a movie theater alert on Street Easy and see what shows up.
Right,
Zillow's been buying a lot of movie theaters, right?
So
And
this is
flipping
like
them.
a we got a zoo situation, bought a zoo, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Thirst.
So he meets Taeju,
He goes to the mahjong
the
game.
comely
Yes.
wife
Yes.
of Kang-woo, who is a churchgoer and a childhood friend of his, I believe. Like they know each other. Yeah,
The
exactly.
hospital doing the rounds. He's a
Right.
childhood friend.
Right.
You know what? I'm just even going to simplify what I said about why he's so immediately drawn to her. I think he just immediately senses that she's sad.
Right. And lonely and feels a little
And
ignored.
angry.
Yeah.
Because the first time we meet her, she's rolling her eyes the entire time.
Right. This person is similarly kind of like over everything.
She's sick of it all.
They both have
Can I venture
Doria
something
syndrome
else?
out the ass. Yeah.
She's also very pretty.
She is.
You
Have
think
you
that
guys
maybe has some...
Have you guys seen The Villainess?
I have not.
no.
Which I know she's in. Kim Ok-bin, is that her name?
Kim Ok-bin, yeah, she is incredible in The Villainess. And the scene in Mission Impossible, which one? The one where Rebecca Ferguson is in the opera and shoots
5.
Yes,
Rogue
Mission
Nation.
Impossible 5, Rogue Nation. That scene is almost straight from The Villainess.
Interesting.
I remember the poster for the Villainess because it was like she's like going like she's got the gun pointed down and
David
it's
is,
sort of like pink and
posing
blue.
right now.
Yeah, David's doing, for the listener at home, a perfect impression of the poster for the Villainess.
But have never seen. She is a babe, I will venture, as is Song Kang-ho with his like emo floppy hair.
I have to say,
Yes.
having only watched Song Kang-ho in Bong Joon-ho movies, where
Sure.
he kind of plays...
Usually plays a buffoon.
He usually plays the buffoon. He usually plays the dope that is hiding secret layers of power or, some secret or hidden
Right. You haven't really seen
quality to
Song
him.
Kang-ho who fucks.
Yeah.
Right.
And Park Chan-wook was like, he laid eyes on Song Kang-ho and was like, that is a sexy baby.
Yeah, sexy
Right.
baby. Right. You're kind of like, but also.
Yeah. This is the first a Korean film to feature full frontal male nudity. This is the
This
first
is the
Dong
first-
Korean film.
This is the
basically.
first Korean film with a penis.
With a penis on screen.
And it's obviously, it's not in an erotic context because it's when he's like stumbling out of the tent.
It's the least erotic moment because I kept
And he's
waiting for. I have
so-
to be honest. I was sitting there going because there's a lot of sex scenes in this movie,
Yes.
and I was like, "Is he going to show the peen in this one?" And then he shows it kind of the worst moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very vulnerable. I mean, that's the idea of it.
When he's
Yes.
trying to ruin his reputation.
Right.
Right. Which I feel like is usually how male nudity is because a flaccid penis is more funny than sexy often. Right.
It's like a banana peel.
Go on.
Prop comedy.
So I feel like it is often when someone is sort of like humiliated or
Yes.
kind of like whatever.
No, it's usually
drunken
a
or-
punchline.
Right.
Yes.
And yes, he is. JJ said he could not back this claim up because this claim is just kind of one of those things that the press repeats or whatever.
Sure.
And he says maybe we'll finally get together and make blank checks, big book of on-screen penises. Circle back on that one, JJ. That's our researcher.
Yeah.
But apparently, yes, the first Korean film with full frontal male nudity. Park says Song Kang-ho had no problem with that. He lost weight for the role. He had no hesitation about any of the raunchy sex scenes. He'll do whatever. He's very gung-ho about all of it.
There's that thing. I feel like very often, like the biggest stars of non-American cinema, right? People talk about how brave they are. And I think there's this feeling of just like, oh, you watch like Antonio Banderas in Almodovar films, or you watch like Song Kang-ho, and you can't imagine like Brad Pitt doing these things on screen, right? You're like the ultimate A-list men are sort of just anything for the art. There isn't that same sort of like commercial calculation of like, if I do this, the audience will turn against me. They won't follow me here. And I wonder sometimes how much of that is just which films get imported to us.
Sure.
You know, that like American critics say that, but it's like, well, you're only seeing their artier films.
Sure.
Or if it is just like in other countries, there is a less, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't, well, like
puritanical culture.
Obviously, Europe, many European countries are less buttoned up about sex on screen. That's not that unusual.
Yeah.
But I do think of Korea as, you know, a society with some like
it's fairly socially conservative as far as I know.
Right. So it is interesting to me that like there are, but I feel like I think you're kind of like we're getting a lot of the sexy art house Korean movies over here from these sort of major auteurs who can take bigger risks or whatever.
Right. Like,
but I don't know. I guess I'm gonna have to watch every movie from every country to make a big list. Griffin, I know you're in Scotland right now, and so you definitely agree with me that summer is the best. There's something going on pretty much every weekend: barbecues, pool parties, family vacations, camping trips, month-long comedy festival trips. All of these occasions, I want to make sure I've got great wine at the ready. I actually have to pick up wine tonight for a dinner party, and I'm thinking about it right now. So that's why summer is actually the perfect time to join the First Leaf Wine Club. Listen, I love First Leaf. They make it super easy to get personalized wine boxes delivered on my schedule. You get to choose the day your shipment comes. You can go out and have all your summer fun without being stressed about missing a delivery. All you got to do is answer some quick questions about your likes and dislikes on their website. Their expert team will select a customized assortment of world-class wines based on your preferences. I want all the rosés and white wines in the summer, but they've got reds, they got sparkling wines, they have personalized wine shipments that go right to your door. You can kick back and enjoy bottles you'll love all summer long, priced lower than what you pay at a wine store. Every selection is backed by First Leaf's 100% satisfaction guarantee. So, to make sure you've got great wine when you want it this summer, you've got to try First Leaf. Just head over to tryfirstleaf.com/check to sign up, and you'll get your first 6 hand-curated bottles for just $44.95. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/check. That's tryfirstleaf.com/check to get your first 6 bottles for under $8 a bottle. Tryfirstleaf.com/check. So Kim Ok-vin, this is her breakthrough performance. She, according to Director Park, has big hands.
Okay.
She's a very famous dancer. She's got a lot of muscle tone in her legs. He keeps talking about how like sort of physically imposing she is, which is why he wanted to cast her, because she was going to turn into this sort of like strong sort of monster. But he also liked the idea that this character cannot bear the frustrations of her daily life and feels trapped. So every night she sneaks out and like runs. And that's why she's got such great muscle tone. This is something he thought about.
Yeah. Basically, in pretty short order, they make good on their chemistry, on their attraction.
Sure.
They sleep together.
Her husband's also a dink. Let's be honest. He's a
real
dink, right?
He's a real dink.
Yeah.
He's you know,
he's a real wet blanket, you might say.
Right.
Jason Clarke type, one could almost argue.
Right. So he's not much of an impediment, and suddenly they're boning.
I
Right.
have to say, I really love, more so even than some of their sex scenes, the scene where Song Kang-ho's Sang-hyun finds her running through the streets. And this is after he's just turned vampire. He flies, I think, towards her and like lifts her up, takes off his shoes and puts her in his shoes.
Right.
And it's such a weirdly wholesome and warm action, and one that, you know, is very protective and she's kind of shocked at. But I find that one to be more, I don't know, like a a spark of connection between the two of them than even some of their sex scenes.
And the sex scenes are very hot. They're very physical. Like there's the one, you know, in the hospital bed. There's the one where she's sort of on top of him and there's like linens all around them where like I forget where
they're in the handbox shop.
Right. Yeah. And like I feel like the sex is also kind of front loaded in their relationship. Like there's a lot of it early on, and then they're dealing
honeymoon
with
phase.
like, okay, well, what do we do about fucking your husband now?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. You get a greater sense of like actual kind of selfless compassion and how he treats her in the little moments like that than you see in any of the moments where he's actually supposed to be someone helping people. And people are acting like he is.
He is also breaking the rules. He's a priest.
Yes.
So he's not allowed to do that.
No.
Not even forgetting that she's married or whatever.
Yeah.
He can't have any sex.
He can't have the sexy times.
He can't have the sexy times. It's banned. The effects in this movie are so fucking good.
Very seamless.
This is the reason I kept thinking about Twilight, because we did all the Twilight movies on Patreon. And those run from 2008 to 2012.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's basically this exact same time. But the first one's 2008. That one has the quote-unquote smaller budget, but still cost a lot more than this movie did.
Right. You're saying that the Twilight movies have a lot of people going like, I'm doing the running.
You're like running in the air.
And it looks like junk.
Look,
and this movie has seamless like wire work and really cool visual
I think we
effects.
watched those movies and both of us came around to liking them on
I
the
enjoy
whole.
basically every Twilight movie. The third one I find to be a bit boring.
The first
That's one I
Twilight
dislike.
movie, Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson's choices are actually inspired because
This is my
We
big
completely
contention.
agree with
they
you.
Yes.
realize that these two are just two extreme weirdos,
Yeah.
and they're weirdos together.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
100%.
And then I think the problem with the franchise as it goes on is they both get flattened out by like the thing becomes too big and they're like, you guys have to be more normal. Pattinson, the first one, is incredible.
He's and after the first one, he just seems like he wants
Checked
to die.
out. And
Right.
then Stewart's thing is so much more subtle that she's able to hold on to more of it.
Well, she also has more to play. Like in the
Yeah.
third one, she's got the love triangle. The fourth one, she's pregnant. And the fifth one,
Yeah.
I can't remember what's
But
happening.
both of
She's
them
got the baby. Renesmee!
kind of suffocated by the series where
This is
their
my
acting
baby.
style goes out of age. Yes.
Renesmee!
The most normal looking baby of all time. But watching those movies, I think the complaint we kept on having is like every single one of those films, and the budget is like going up 25% on each of those movies.
Sure.
They constantly keep on redefining the visual language of what their powers
Right.
look like and seemingly the approach to the effects, and they basically never work. And in each of the
Never quite
movies, they're
work.
like, here's what jumping looks like. Here's what it looks like when they go fast. Here's what their senses look like. And you're just watching like 7 different attempts at all of these styles of powers that never fit. And in this movie, every time nails it on the first try. And it is one of those things where you're just like, he must have just been so deliberate because there are complicated shots, you know, and they're seamless. As you said, like a lot of them require like insane wire work. There's shit like him vomiting blood that's like a hard effect to fake,
Yeah.
you know? And just the mix of like the digital and the practical, it just feels like very organic in this movie. You actually buy that this is happening in a real tangible world. And What We Do in the Shadows was the one I thought of where I feel like similarly that movie has much more impressive vampire effects than most big budget vampire movies. Like the wire work is better, more organic. I don't know. I was every little moment. There's the moment where he lifts up the mother-in-law in the chair and takes her down the hallway.
Yes.
And it is done so offhandedly.
He's so good at that kind of, I think, just thinking too.
Making
just
it
like
part
the
of the
visual
world.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
But
Like,
like,
it never feels like we're entering a fantasy world. Even when
How to
like
toss off those shots so they feel just like
water's
stolen
spilling out of
moments.
things. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I found really interesting about the powers and the depiction of the powers here, especially him like learning them and giving and sort of showing them off to Taeju, it is framed a little bit like a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And especially in when he first wakes up, he has all vampire powers. He suddenly can hear, feel everything. He sees someone chopping green onions like 2 floors down. He hears people talking. He sees things on his skin. And it feels very much like Raimi Spider-Man in that sense. And then when he first shows Taeju that he's a vampire and he picks her up and starts leaping through the rooftops, it feels almost like exciting and inspiring in a way that a Christopher Reeve Superman movie or like Smallville will feel. It's interesting the way that it feels. It's almost like feels like a different movie. It just is like this windswept romance, and it's framed like that sort of superhero sequences.
Well, and I agree with you that first awakening moment is very Raimi Spider-Man, but then he avoids doing the montage of testing out his powers, learning everything he does, so that when later in the movie he does something like leap or lift something or whatever, you're kind of surprised at the reveal of like, oh, right, he can do this. They haven't like...
He doesn't do it all the time. Yes, it
Right.
is. And sometimes he's just a bit of a fusser. He doesn't project all-powerful vampires sometimes. You know what I mean?
No, because it also doesn't make him very happy.
Look.
He's not carrying himself with some renewed sense of vim and vigor.
The man's in search of an answer.
Yeah.
Tries to kill himself with a virus. He tries to, fall in love with a married woman. He kills a man. Like, these are all, he's looking for answers that he's never going to get.
When he realizes he's a vampire, he tries to kill himself again.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like he's always like, maybe this will be it.
When does he do that?
Doesn't that happen when he wakes up? Am I wrong about this?
I'm trying to find.
Is it when he jumps out of the window?
That's what I took it as, him not knowing that he would
survive himself.
Okay.
He's like hitting himself.
Right. A lot of that stuff felt like him.
The hitting himself. I read more as like part of his Catholic upbringing.
Penance
Yeah,
shit.
the penance.
Yeah.
That's self.
But then it goes away and
self-flagellation.
Flugellation.
Yeah, he's got a flugelhorn and he's hitting himself.
That's right.
He does have a flute / recorder.
Yeah.
So.
Blood recorder.
The blood recorder thing is so gross. The thing with the like mouth pincers that they keep doing,
it's
is also
so cool.
a very cool, very gross idea.
It's something that you're like, why would they do that? But at the same time, it looks so cool and it's so disturbing that you're like, you know what? It's just part of the whole texture of the movie.
Which he is so good at. But exactly. He jumps out the window, lands on the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, thunk.
Right.
And then he's like, I guess I'm still alive.
Right. That wasn't him testing his powers.
Right.
That was him hoping he was ending it. That's what I viewed as like, it's a Groundhog Day thing of like, he's doing things that accidentally reveal to him that he's invincible.
And then right after that is when he puts her in his shoes.
Right.
And then they have sex.
But let's say he basically confesses he's a vampire to only two people. One is his superior.
Right.
And he's just like, I'm a fucking monster. I hate this.
Yes.
Literally opens his heart up to him.
Right. And like makes him put his hand in his chest to feel his weird vampire heart. And Priest Rose's response is like, well, I'm here to help you out, which is not what he wants, right? Like he wants to be damned.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, drink my blood and also make me a vampire.
Right. Right. Like he immediately offers up his own blood of like, I'm here to serve you.
Right.
And then clearly the end goal is, I would love to regain my vision. I want your power.
Yeah, he wants to see the world before he dies.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when he reveals that he's a vampire to her, she's immediately freaked out.
Yes. I do think the one reason, he's just disgusted that like, he's like, what are these rules if I am saying to my superior, I'm a vampire and he's not, like, well, you are an offense to God.
Yeah.
Then why have I been doing any of this shit? Like, what are we talking about here?
Of course, but
I'm a monster. Right. Tell me I'm a monster.
He became a man of the cloth to find answers. You get the sense he went, I don't think there are any fucking answers. And the fact that people look to him as if he knows anything makes him feel like a bullshit artist, right?
Right.
He knows now one thing demonstrably, which is I am a monster. I am actually a vampire.
He's a monster.
And everyone around him is like, what if being a vampire is good? And he's like, no, hate me.
Now, obviously,
chase me out of this town.
They have lots of hot sex.
Uh-huh.
And then she sort of like tells him that her husband is abusing her.
Yes.
And that is ostensibly why he's helping her kill.
Right. But it's because he sees the bruises.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would you do boat murder? Would you do it?
No.
No, you're out on the boat murder?
No, and I swear to God, I'm not just virtue signaling here. I think boat murder is maybe one of the last types of murder I would commit.
What's the first type of murder you commit?
That's a great question. Let me think on that. Ben?
I'm going to go ahead and say I wouldn't even fish.
You wouldn't even just like do it for any...
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't even
for
be
recreation.
tempted to commit boat murder because I would say no to the fishing.
Right. Would you do boat murder?
Well, I think I would say no to the fishing at 9 p.m.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Night fishing.
Night fishing. Would I do boat murder? No, I think I would be more likely to fall underwater than anything, even if I did have vampire powers.
Maybe my answer is kill him with kindness. Maybe that's what I would do.
It'd just be so nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the sex Director Park says... It's very important. The minute he's doing this, he's stepping over a line he shouldn't have crossed.
Sure.
It's the moral downfall of the priest. For her, it's liberation.
Yeah.
She's free from this marriage. So I didn't just want them to have sex. I wanted all these like complex facial expressions. Like I wanted to choreograph every moment of the sex to make it like feel very, very powerful. Like that both of them are like sort of crossing these lines.
There's this sort of
and I think
hand
he very
bra
much
thing
succeeded.
too. She talks about how
She
much
does the hand bra.
Right. She basically says like, I'm not shy.
Yes.
Right.
While refusing to show herself after she's taken her clothes off.
Right.
Yeah. It just feels like the whole thing is so gnarled and twisted in their own
She's trying to refute her whole sort of passive image that everyone has of her.
Yeah. Right. Is this like chaste sort of like a friendly wife.
Like mousy woman.
Right. Because she also tells him that she's basically a virgin.
I guess this guy's, he's not, I don't know, not doing much.
No.
In Thérèse Raquin, I will say he's an invalid. So, and she is raised alongside him. So she's raised like an invalid, even though she herself is actually quite strong and hardy. So she has a resentment against that because she's like, I was trapped in all of these dank, dark rooms with him all the time. I couldn't go outside because he couldn't go outside. He wouldn't take his medicine, so I had to take it alongside him. Right. So she became a hypochondriac
They're like
because of him.
Together.
Yeah.
This is Shin Ha-kyun. He plays Ryu in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, the mute lead character there, and he's in Joint Security Area, another frequent Park collaborator. He's Park is like inveterate storyboarder, right? Like loves his previs, loves right. All his shots are so complicated. He says the first things he storyboards are sex scenes because he knows they're going to be the most complicated thing, and then he'll take them to the actress, and he'll be like, all right, so. This shot's going to have left nipple. This shot's going to have butt. Like, he takes them through the entire sort of choreography of it. I do think this one wasn't exactly controversial, but it was pretty, lurid for Korea.
Yeah.
It's pretty lurid for anybody.
By the way, so it's 2009. They filmed this in 2008 or whatever.
Sure.
What you're describing with like his approach to storyboarding. That's
what they do now, right?
That's like basically the main function of an intimacy coordinator, not to literally
like
draw
every
the
like move of the sex scene.
But you just read every fucking actor over the age of 65 complain about the fact that like they've made all these sex scenes formal. You can't do anything as an actor anymore. And basically it's just like treat it like it's an action sequence.
Right.
It's like stunt photography.
It's choreography.
You need to like just
100%
communicate this clearly.
Yeah,
that's what
the sex scenes that seem the most disastrous is where they were just like, all right, get in the bed. We're just going to try a bunch of stuff.
Right. Disastrous, look, interpersonally for the people on set, but also like all the best sex scenes in film history that people talk about
super
we're done in this way with intentionality and communication.
He thought about doing this in black and white because he thought it would be too gory for color, essentially.
Interesting.
And then he decided, no, let's go the other way. Make the blood look like wine, which I feel like it really does. It's very like dark red.
Yes.
He basically says like it's the most blood he's ever had in a movie. This film's got a lot of blood.
I like that he was worried about how much blood there would be when there's a scene where after, they commit the murder, they paint the house white.
Yeah.
For some reason, for reasons. And then that just is, I feel like it's for the express purpose of whenever there's blood spatter to just make it look cooler.
Because it just looks insane anytime they're in that white room.
He has the tiling on the floor is like these long diagonal strips at sort of like odd angles. And they're so fine that you don't really see them until the blood lands. And then it creates this weird pattern on the floor where it falls into the crevices and what have you.
God, this movie's cool. I'm just sort of watching it right now. Anyway, all right. So they kill her husband.
Yes.
As their affair progresses, they drown him, and they put his body in a cabinet. Right.
Put it at the bottom.
Put a rock in it.
Yeah. Can we talk about the detail of there is a village underneath the water, and he has to put him into a closet and put a rock on top of the closet?
Death
by
not seem normal
Atlantis.
to you?
Yeah.
Very normal way to die or kill someone.
Yeah.
And
this is in the lake, the body of water.
In the lake, yeah.
There's
like a drowned city.
Okay,
it feels like the remnants of
Sure. Okay, that makes so much more sense. I could not figure out what was going on there. And
Is that from the book, or is that just like some
That's
wild
just-
sort of flight of fancy?
That's some wild flight of fancy. I don't know if it's something that he imagines, like his character imagines, and
Right.
this is just like a mental thing that he has to put him in this closet. And he doesn't know if he's actually going to come out or something, or if it's just that, if it's actually real. But I like that detail, and it's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, look, a better alibi, right? If they find a dead body and it's just in the middle of a body of water with nothing there, you're like, why would he be hanging out here? But you're like, no, this was like a living room.
Right.
It's a closet.
this
Maybe
guy
he came
just
here to
went
do
in his
some
closet.
work.
Right.
Yeah.
But like right after that, you've got like they're trying to have sex. When he's touching her, he's like, why are you so wet? Why is the bed damp? Like, like
I love the detail too that it's a water bed.
yes,
Yes.
that they're suddenly feeling dampness everywhere.
Yeah.
And then just the most incredible shot that anyone has maybe ever done of her naked, then the husband wet,
Yeah.
sort of snotty, with like the most ridiculous expression on his face. I don't know, what a little stinker expression.
Sure.
And then Song Kang-ho naked on top of him, like thrusting madly, while the husband's just like
And he's holding onto
looking
the
like Chippendale, and he's holding onto the rock.
that that he was way down with, and he's also bloated from the water too, and just like grinning goofily. It's great.
It's that much creepier that he doesn't come back to haunt their nightmares being like, you killed me. Right. Like he's not a
Right.
Jacob Marley ghost. He's like, by all means, go ahead.
He's like, I've always wanted to have a throuple.
I've always wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Whilst wet.
I just can't imagine another director thinking of that and then
Yes.
having the audacity to actually try and pull it off. It's a great laugh moment.
Yeah.
But it's also such a creepy, indelible image. When did you first see Thirst? Not to ask that in an aggressive way, because I saw this in theaters.
I think
This is certainly the first one I saw in a theater, I think.
Yeah. Because I saw Old Boy in theater. I think I saw this in theaters. Yeah.
And I just remembered, like, laughing. The whole audience sort of going ballistic.
It's also
the sight of it.
The older I get, the more movies I watch, the more impressed I am by anyone who is able to like handle 2 or 3 tones at the same time.
Right.
Not just switch tones within a movie, but like be able to maintain multiple feelings within a single sequence or shot, which he does. You're like, the comedy should play against the horror. One should I don't know.
Right.
The flexibility of genre
Yeah.
within this just a single scene is so
Yes.
impressive.
Yes.
Okay, so what else?
We haven't talked about the mom very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's sort of a domineering mom, right?
Sorta.
Before the
She's
stroke.
extremely domineering.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She owns some sort of bespoke clothing store.
It's a henbok store, from what I
Okay.
saw. Yeah, so they sell and make customized henboks. I think that's the traditional Korean sort of gown.
You wear it for like a wedding photo, right? Like I feel like
Yes.
I've seen Korean couples I know where you do the
Yeah,
You
you
do
wear
the
it for
portrait
a
in
wedding
the-
photo, other rites, and ritual occasions, that kind of thing. I have to note I'm not Korean,
No,
so
sure.
I am just saying from what I know of Korean culture. But yes, that's exactly what you wear it for. Usually weddings.
And like the guy has like a sort of there's sort of guy the male version is sort of these cool robes. I don't know.
Okay.
It always looks very impressive.
We just moved past this, but you were talking about how in the book the husband is an invalid.
Mhm.
There is, of course, the thing that they, the connection point happens in the hospital, right?
Mm.
And then after Song Kang-ho like enters their life, there is this period where he seems to be better, or it almost feels like it's a psychosomatic effect of feeling like this miracle man blessed him, and then very quickly his health starts getting worse again.
Right.
Mhm.
And so much of her, I don't know. We find out very shortly that he never abused her. He never laid a hand on her. That this was all a fix.
Yes.
Right?
She just wanted out.
She wanted
She
out.
didn't want to be with her dumb husband.
Right. And it does feel
She
like
wanted to be with Song Kang-ho.
her life was very constrained by living with his mother, under the sense of control, with a person who was very limited in what he could do.
Mhm.
She had this brief window of like, maybe he's going to be able to be an active member of society again outside of these 4 walls. And then when that's taken from her again, it feels like she's just done.
She's trapped again.
Right.
Right.
She can't go back.
And she is immediately back to emo mode. No
Mhm.
offense
Yes.
to her. She's allowed.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I guess some offense. She did kill her husband.
Yeah, that part is offensive.
Whatever. And so, you know, on this revelation, he eventually kills her by snapping her neck. Which, why didn't he fucking snap the
Well,
husband's
she
neck?
begs him. She's like, let me be with my husband again. She's suddenly racked with guilt.
But he doesn't want to let that happen. And so he turns her into a vampire in a very gross scene.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's more depressing to him, he hates being alive, and he's terrified at the notion of actually being dead, right?
Right.
He hates being alive, but he hates being alone and alive worse.
That's the worst possible scenario for him.
I feel like the image of him like cutting his wrist, trying to get the blood into her mouth. Yeah, exactly.
Icky?
That's how I feel about it. And like fails.
Gross?
He's like,
Yeah.
God damn it, you know, and he has to do it again.
Right
like,
now I'm
before it
grimacing,
heals.
which
it's
is why.
very nasty.
Yeah.
It's very clever. Like I like it as a world building vampire, you know, your take on a vampire, because of course that is classic vampire, right? That's how you
Yes.
sire another vampire.
Yes.
But he's
There's a
like,
lot of
fuck, I'm
sucking
healing
between.
too quick.
Right.
A lot of sucking.
Right. And
lot of
she's dying
mouth
fast.
stuff.
You got a limited window.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's up as a vampire, and as in so many vampire stories, and it is one of my favorite things in vampires when you make a vampire, and you'll be like me, right? And you're like, no,
Yeah.
I'm different than you.
She's psychotic.
I was different than you alive.
Yeah.
Like, why are you surprised that I am now also different than you as like an immortal superpowered thing?
Yes.
So she's crazy. She's
I'm
killing
attacking this with
indiscriminately.
gusto. I have no sort of
I could have told him that's what's going to happen.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, she's emo like him, but in a much more rebellious way.
She takes action. She fucking talks someone into murdering her husband. She's
Right.
not going to be like a dilettante vampire.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
has been waiting for this freedom her entire life, and now
Yes.
that she finally has it, she's going to go nuts.
And power. She can do whatever the fuck she wants now.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's a very cool hot vampire. And I do think the bad vampires are the best. I
Yeah.
love the I'm a monster, oh, woe is me vampires, but I really like the
Kim Ok-bin's just wide, leery grin throughout this entire last third of the movie. She's so good. She's so creepy.
she's so
She's
fun.
grinning the entire time and
Yeah.
just gleefully laughing away. She's so fun to watch.
Another, of course, vampire property at this time is True Blood. Right,
Oh,
right
sure.
at the same time,
Yes.
right?
More sexy vampires.
More
Right.
sexy vampires,
Right.
more very much like the whole the sex metaphor is brought like all the way to the front.
Yeah.
And Deborah Ann Wool's character is that.
Okay.
Where what's his pants?
Stephen Moyer.
What was his name?
Stephen
Moyer?
Moyer?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember. Russell.
Eric.
No, Eric was Skarsgård. I think I can't remember.
No, wasn't he? I don't know.
Has to make her a vampire for some reason. I can't remember why, but it's like a punishment or something. And she's like this retiring little church girl.
She was quote unquote the nice girl.
Right. And then the
Okay.
second she's a vampire, she's like, this rocks.
Yeah.
I'm going to go fuck shit up. And he has to be like, no, you have to do what I say. You're right. He's Bill. No,
yeah,
he's Bill.
Bill. Eric.
And-
Yeah, Eric is is Skarsgård. Yes.
Skarsgård is
Yeah.
Eric. Yes.
But
Bill was always going, suck it. That's what I remember.
Sucker.
Wow, that show was about Bill the sexy vampire.
Bill.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there's the
Mhm.
whole concept of a vampire with a soul.
Right.
And then when Angel, who is the one vampire with the soul, loses his soul, he becomes that monstrous, just
and
psychotic.
jealous.
Yeah, and jealous. He loves that violence. He's a sadist, all that stuff. So there's that whole
And
sort
he
of
becomes a monster by taking
duality.
her virginity.
Yeah,
It's all going on.
when he experiences his perfect happiness.
And then Spike gets a soul. Did you ever watch Buffy? You were
I never
really a
did.
Buffy kid, right?
No, it feels not like a great time to start watching.
It's
it
not a
throw
great
it
time,
on.
but you know
Yeah.
what? You can be like, this is separate from
No,
its
look,
creators.
a lot of people work on things. Yeah, but
Oh,
it does
sure,
feel
yes.
like it's one of those shows I always meant to watch, and then the more things I heard about Joss Whedon, I was like, do I really want to jump into this?
Buffy. I grew up with Buffy. Buffy's very certainly,
Buffy, I've been looking for you.
along with the X-Files, the first show to basically have comic book storytelling, and
Mhm.
eventually that took over all media, but it was very exciting at the time.
Yeah,
I've
I've seen isolated
sort of like,
episodes that I loved.
Yeah, it's got great
Yeah.
episodes.
The great combo of serialized and teen soap.
Exactly. Just the right. There's sort of two tracks of like sometimes we're going to be like a sci-fi serial show, and sometimes we're going to be, more of a fun teen.
That's
soap.
a thing
Monster of the Week.
we really fucking lost with streaming.
Well-
is the like we have so many episodes to fill that we have a couple different
That's the thing,
types
right?
of
When you had
episodes
22
we cycle
episodes,
between.
you could switch off. You could be like, this will be a fun one.
Right. You got like a lot more experimentation with form when people had to figure out how to not be repetitive.
Hoai-Tran was just telling me about, I already forgot the name of the show. What's it called? The Tom Holland show.
Oh, The Crowded Room.
And like, apparently they don't have the twist till episode 7 or something.
It's episode 7. It's so fun. I'm not going to talk about the show because it annoyed me so much.
What is this show?
It's the one with Tom Holland on.
Doing what?
There's some singing, some dancing.
I can't spoil it
can't
because
spoil it even though the twist is so late.
There is a spoiler embargo for episode 7.
So basically, you cannot reveal what the premise of the show is because it does not reveal itself until
it's
episode.
Room.
Exactly. It's the premise of the show. It's based off a true story of which you can't reveal what the true story is
now,
based
you can
off
Google the true story and then make some inferences.
Yeah.
It will have come out by this point, I will say. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, yes, we all agreed serialized TV was better in the 90s.
Yeah.
Sure.
Bring back episodic TV.
Yes.
Bring back
let
episodes that
TV shows
matter.
be TV shows again.
Will they, though?
I don't know. It's all broken.
Is it even TV, though, anymore? Streaming shows? Is that what we would call
Well, this
them?
is the question. I mean, contractually, all these things are written up as if they're web
Screen
series.
Screen shows.
Yeah.
It's on a screen.
Yeah.
Mm.
Series.
Do you like that?
No.
The boob tube.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's bring them back. I'm
Yeah,
going to watch
the
another
boob tube.
Another tube.
Yeah.
Another boob tube. Griffin, I'm not going to wait anymore for you to speak because a game where no one wins is the waiting game. And when it comes to hiring, you don't wait for great talent to find you. You find them first with Indeed. Because when you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed is a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. We streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you match candidates with Instant Match. Over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. That's according to Indeed Data US. Look, if you're using Indeed, you're going to find candidates you invite to apply are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search. This is if you're using the Indeed hiring platform. They're going to get you one step closer to the hire by immediately matching you quality candidates and do the hard work for you, showing you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post so you can hire faster. It's the only job site where you can pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. So you should join the 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/check. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/check. Just go to Indeed.com/check and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/check. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Okay. She's a crazy vampire.
Okay.
They have the big fight in the rooftops.
Yes.
They're jumping around.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point soon after is where you sort of have the scene where through eyes alone, she sort of starts, the mom starts to communicate what has happened because she knows everything.
Well, the mom, right, we
Eyes
should mention.
And nails.
Yes. Pointing, sort of.
The sequence where she asks to be killed and then he cannot let it happen and converts her all happens while the mother-in-law is lying on the ground watching them, frozen post-stroke. And then there's the scene where the friends come over for mahjong and are all like, I'm sure your husband will show up at some point. It's tragedy. Who knows? We'll get an answer at some point.
Right. He's just missing.
Right. But just like aggressively unsuspicious. Right.
Right.
And the mother-in-law, who up until this moment has seemed completely just kind of like, I think to their mind,
she's got nothing going.
They think she's almost vegetative.
Right. Right.
And then she starts, as you said, like she gets one of her fingernails off so she can write in blood on the arm of the chair. She teaches them how to read her communication through length of blinks and stuff like that and starts spelling it out to them, which is an incredible sequence.
I love the fact that her nails are already so gross and
They
falling
are
off at
nasty.
that point. Like it's something that even Taeju and Sang, who have not noticed at that point, they're like, what happened to your nail? And she's been working at it to try to write in blood exactly what's been happening.
Yes.
So she has a mission.
So she tips a couple people off, and so then they have to die. I love movies where it turns out everyone's gonna have to die. You know what I mean? Where like you're in so deep.
Yes,
and then someone else walks in and sees you doing something, and you're like,
but they're just
like,
simple
they
start drawing curtains, like, oh boy,
here we go.
We're gonna have to do this murder.
Her with the handsaw coming up the stair, you know, she's got the big saw.
She's pretty happy about it. She's pretty happy for a massacre. Like,
she's
as
looking
soon as,
for an excuse.
As
She
soon
calls
as they
herself
figure
like
it
a
out.
human-eating monster at one point.
Like the first thing when the I think the cop runs out and she just breaks his neck with her arm, and she's like, yep. Just all in a day's work. She's excited about it.
Yet she keeps the third guy alive, right?
Yeah.
The guy that she was also having an affair with.
Yeah, she is randomly having him. There's that scene where they're having the worst sex. She's just like sitting on top of him, not looking at him. And then just kind of gets up and is like, I'm going. Like yes, there's this sort of sub affair happening. Who is that guy? He's just a guy.
He's just a guy.
Neighbor guy.
Mahjong friend.
Right. And then so after all of that murder is the camping, right? Is like him leading her away, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This
is the ending.
Right. This is peak just I want to be caught. I want people to destroy me.
Right.
Right. He basically frames himself for sexual assault that he did not commit.
Right.
At a campsite of people he knows adore him, deify him.
Right.
Just to create a paper trail, basically, of this guy sucks.
And he does get his dick out just to make sure people think he's a real loser.
Right.
So why do you think he's so intent on leaving his legacy like that? Because he's already had that wanting to sort of shed that and be left alone and not have to deal with people who idolize him. But why does he want to leave with...
Make sure he dies that way, too?
Yeah, make sure he dies that way.
He possibly disgusted with himself, his sort of, extreme betrayal of his original principles, whatever they were.
Yeah, and I think it's a heightening of how he feels at the beginning of the movie, which is just like, I feel like a phony.
It's all bullshit.
That people look to me like I have any answers, and my genuine belief is that it's all bullshit. And that heightens over the course of the movie to him doing a lot of bad things.
Right.
The last thing he wants is to be deified in his death.
He's been a monster in hiding this whole time, so now he wants to bring the monster out.
Yeah, right, because even when he did become a monster, no one turned
Everyone's
against
like, you're still great.
Yeah.
What a cool guy you are.
And the one person that he revealed it to was like, cool, I'll become a monster too.
I can has powers.
Right. But I think it's like not even a very strategic thing. It is that like people so overwhelmed with guilt that they do something stupid because they want to get caught. You know, it's like, why does Robert Durst steal the fucking sandwich? Why does OJ do the Jersey
is not
heist?
Normal.
You think this man's normal?
No, he's not too normal.
He's a vampire.
I think he's better than OJ and Robert Durst.
I agree. He's number 3.
And then you just have this incredible final sequence of them in this car, out in the beach, in the middle, unable to outrun the sun.
Yes.
So I've taken us to a place where the sun's about to rise and we just can't get away from it. Like even if we ran.
I like how extended the sequence is and also how funny it is.
In the car.
It's
so
basically a big just setup of gag after gag of her trying to hide from the sun and him just demolishing that hope in some way or another.
And she'll grab a bit off of the car and hit him and all that stuff. It's such a
She'll hide in the trunk. He'll throw the trunk's car
hood
away,
yeah.
And then she'll try to find the hood again and she'll just throw it into the ocean.
And then they're finally okay.
Yeah.
And they sit on the thing and she says together in hell and he's like, there's no that's
right.
it.
There's nothing.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Mother-in-law just trapped in the backseat.
Yeah.
They're far away. It's going to take a long time probably for anyone to find her. That's sort of the darkest element of this.
It's true. She may well die.
Probably just going to starve to death.
I mean, I guess maybe someone will come out for a stroll.
He gave her the phone before he
sure
they committed suicide. He put it in her hand. So he's like, yeah, all right, that's up to you now.
Yeah, I mean, good luck. Obviously, it's very intense, them burning up. But then there is the kind of the jokiness of their ashy little legs and then the shoes fall off. It's just sort of funny.
It's funny, but it's also kind of sweet because it brings it back to that first
the shoes.
Scene
You're right.
with the shoes.
You're right.
Yeah.
And then, but there's also just them looking out at an ocean of blood.
Right, that's
It's
my
very
favorite part.
cool.
He starts like hallucinating in that moment and just imagines the entire ocean as blood with dolphins swimming through the blood and everything.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Is the whole movie and the ending actually a metaphor for Park Chan-wook's own atheism? Like going from Catholicism to atheism?
I think so.
I think
mean,
probably,
like
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's so
I think you
fueled
hit the
by
nail
that,
on the
right?
head,
Like
yeah.
the like. I mean, he talks about it so clinically when he's interviewed. He
Yeah.
may just be trying to not sort of come off offensively or whatever.
Mhm.
He's just like, one day I just decided as a teenager I'm not religious,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But like, yeah, I mean, the loss of faith can be like this very like profound, upsetting notion, right? You have this sort of idea of like, oh, I'm gonna go somewhere when I die, or oh,
It's
like,
also come up a lot in directors we've covered. A
Yeah,
lot of whom
so many
started
directors,
out following some path
as
of,
teens, someone was like, you'd be a good priest.
and I do think it's often you hear like, oh, this film became their new belief system. At the moment where they suddenly felt there is no meaning to any of this, what they would rather do is use fake stories to communicate their thoughts rather than stand in front of anyone and claim that they are telling the truth.
But it does, the novel obviously is working off of those sort of Victorian novels and like so many film noirs where it is like fuck around and find out, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, look, it's fun. It's crazy what you do. It's liberating. But then at the end of the day, you are going to probably die.
I like categorizing a whole genre as fuck around and find out. Yeah, in the Wikipedia they say it's one of the first examples of naturalism, but fuck around and find out is much better, I think.
Yeah.
If I ever met Emile Zola, I would be like, oh, you kind of invented fucking around and finding out. How do you feel about that? Right? Because
Yeah.
it's not like quote unquote like crime pays. It's more just kind of like, you can search for the sublime or like whatever the answer all you want.
Bill comes due.
Right.
But we're
Eventually.
all destined for the dirt.
Because like what? This movie can't just end with them being like, let's just be hot vampires who murder and then like just jumping into the sky. That would be weird. You kind of like that?
It's kind of a good pitch. Yeah.
Thirst too, hardly
How
thirsting.
does Only Lovers Left Alive end?
Doesn't it end? I have not seen that film since theaters.
Just basically restart the cycle of their relationship.
Yes, it ends with them finding a young lovers like kissing, and they're like,
"Here we go again."
Like, and it's great. That movie's great. Though.
I love.
But half of that movie is mostly just them sitting around being like, remember when we hung out with Mozart? What a crazy dude. Right? Like,
yes.
While they're in like a parking lot in Detroit.
It's the same thing I love about the old guard of just like, what do you do if you're thousands of years old?
Right.
If everything just becomes like meaningless.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've seen it all. You've done it all.
Have you seen Only Lovers Left Alive?
I have not seen Only Lovers
Check it
Left
out,
Alive.
bro.
I need
movie.
to.
Do you like Hiddleston?
I do like
it's like
Hiddleston.
peak spindly,
That's his
sexy, pale ass
Best
Hiddleston.
performance.
Yeah,
Maybe.
because I'm a fan of Hiddleston in Crimson Peak, so it feels like one
it's very
of a piece.
similar era to
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like maybe only a year or two before that.
Yes.
Oh, he's good in Crimson Peak.
He's
Should do
great.
Del Toro.
I mean, we thought he was probably
sort
going
of
to win.
Had a shot in this bracket that Park Chan-wook won,
Yeah.
but then he lost.
He
to
lost.
Park Chan-wook.
Yeah.
So fuck around and find out.
Fuck around and find out is the lesson there.
All right.
Are there any other sort of like as a fan of his films, general Park Chan-wook thoughts you want to drop on this episode?
I like how intentional he is with his camera all the time and the way that he frames things. He always loves frames within frames, especially in the introductory scene with the priest when we have the shot of the hospital door and the shadows of the leaves on it. And it feels like there's something about nature and man and the clinical, setting there going on. And then especially in the scene where we have the mahjong game and with the introduction of all of the people and the camera swings back and forth between people who are speaking but also people who are reacting. And I was just thinking how different it is from how Bong Joon-ho's camera is with a big ensemble scenes with a big group of people, and how this feels so much more laser focused on a single person with each shot versus with Bong Joon-ho. There's almost like a more of a chaos to it, but also
he loves chaos.
Yeah, but a more like framed chaos in a way. And I thought that was so interesting.
Over each other. And, Yeah, right. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's the sort of anthropologist versus architect thing?
Yeah. Park Chan-wook has always been that architect. He's very clinical.
Yeah.
And I
some
think
people don't like that. I love
it.
Mm-hmm. And him making a very clinical vampire movie that is as much about how they are forces of chaos and evil, but but also ruled by their human natures. It feels very only he can make it.
Yeah,
so.
No, this is a normal movie. Anyone could make this shit. McG could make this.
Can I share one thought before we move on to the box office game?
please.
Yeah.
The mother has a really special power that stuck out for me.
Okay.
At one point, when her son is obviously sick, he farts, and she gives a big old whiff and is able to detect certain aspects of his sickness.
I cannot believe we almost went the whole episode without talking about this.
In a way, sort of being a fart detective.
She is a fart detective, right?
Right.
Because she even goes like, no, it smells different than when you had pneumonia. Like she's sort of...
Yeah, she's got like different samples to pull from.
Yeah, she is the true fart detective, which, by the way, is a title we have bestowed upon Ben in the years of this show.
I was wondering about this bit.
Yeah,
detective.
Yeah, he is a fart detective.
And I don't necessarily love the title, but I have many others that are far superior. But anyway, it's just nice to see, I guess, yourself represented on this big screen.
You clearly like this mom.
Yeah,
definitely.
no, wasn't it that when we went to see Taruk the First Flight, the Avatar Cirque du Soleil show, that the guy in front of you in line to buy a hot dog farted and tried to pass it off like it was someone else?
Yeah.
And you called him out on it?
Yeah.
And then we called you the fart detective.
That's pretty
called
much
him out on
how
mic,
that
to
all
be
went.
clear. You didn't call him out in person.
No.
Yeah, that's how that all went down.
Yeah.
Thirst was at the 2009 Cannes Film Festival.
Won the grand jury prize?
It won the jury prize, the sort of third place prize. It shared it with Fish Tank, the Andrea Arnold film. Some of the other movies at that Cannes
Inglourious Bastards
in competition were Inglourious Bastards, Antichrist, which everyone had a very chill reaction to.
Normal.
Jane Campion's Bright Star.
One of your favorites?
Wonderful movie. Almodovar's Broken Embraces. Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Ben Cannon.
Bastards, like we said. Jacques Audiard's The Prophet, which is A Prophet, which is a big deal.
Great film.
Ang Lee's great film. Ang Lee's Taking Woodstock, less of a great film, but still. And the palm, of course, went to The White Ribbon.
Yes.
Michael Haneke. And Isabelle Huppert was the jury president. Everyone was like, she was in the bag for Haneke.
Yeah.
Been just kind of a stacked
Has
can.
he won 3 times or 2 times?
2 times. No one's won 3.
Right. Okay.
It's a really good year. But yeah, Prophet won the Grand Prix. Christoph Waltz won Best Actor. And Charlotte Gainsbourg Best Actress for Antichrist.
Yeah.
Chill movie.
It's wild they gave it to Gainsbourg. Yeah.
Well, I think that was one of those kind of like, sorry, I had to put up
It was
with
a little bit
shit.
like the Ana de Armas Oscar nomination.
Right.
Big year for full frontal male nudity.
I was going to say, another movie with dicks.
Yeah.
Dick.
Right. But isn't that one fake?
I think so, because it gets, mutilated.
That's also the thing that Lars von Trier
said his Willem Dafoe's penis was too large and distracting.
I believe he said confusingly large. That it took away from the story.
Yeah, during the test screenings, the audience was confused.
That was
correct?
the only part they went. Otherwise, logic crystal.
I'm
clear in this
confused.
film. Yeah,
the fox. I get it. Yeah. But still, I feel like early. it's the 2000s. It's still a very big deal for these films to be winning.
Yes,
major prizes at the big fancy Western film festivals. Old Boy's big breakout was at Cannes. Blah blah blah. Was a success at the Korean box office. And apparently there's an extended cut of the film on its Blu-ray.
That's 15 minutes longer. It is only on the Korean Blu-rays. It's not been released in any other territories.
The film itself is long. It's 2 hours 15 minutes basically. So the extended cut's like 2.5.
Correct.
Let's play the box office game.
But yeah, I looked into that. It's only available in one version of the Blu-ray that goes for like $250.
This
Not
one came
rentable
out in America on July 31st, 2009. So it's the summer of 2009, Griffin.
And they released on what, like 4,000 screens?
It was released on 4 screens.
Okay.
Number 1 at the box office is a comedy. It's new this week.
July 31st, 2009.
It's a long film. Speaking of long films.
Funny People.
I knew that would be enough.
But a very low number 1.
Somewhat underperforming. As Judd Apatow's big follow-up to Knocked Up and an Adam Sandler movie, it's only making 22. I think people thought it would do better.
Yeah.
But they underestimated the fact that it's 14 hours long.
Correct.
And sort of incredibly depressing.
Kind of a bummer, yeah.
Good movie, though, in my
Great
opinion.
fucking movie. I love.
Underrated movie.
Yes.
Hangover had been so big earlier in the summer.
That's true. Hangover number 8 still hanging around.
And Sandler at this point, too, it was like every time he made a Happy Madison comedy, it made $100 million without exception. And then when he would do his Spanglish or his Reign Over Me or his Punch Drunk Love, then it would kind of bomb. And everyone thought like, well, this is going to be the one that's right in the middle.
Right in the middle, right. Yeah.
But it kind of bombed.
Yeah, it made 55. Or no, sorry, 51. Yeah, it didn't do great. It's very long.
Yeah.
How long is it?
It's like 2.5 hours, I want to say.
I think it's even close to 240.
It's 2.5.
Okay.
It's crazy that they let him do that. But Knocked Up had been such a smash.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2 at the box office.
What did it open to?
22.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Number 2 at the box office in its third week is a film I just said is, in this episode, I said was the best in its series.
You said in this episode?
I said in this episode, this film is the best in its series. What series were we just talking about?
Twilight.
Twilight?
No.
No, because that's November.
I know. I didn't say it was Twilight.
Why did you tell me it was Twilight? Okay, wait.
Come on. We talked about it. Come on. We talked,
Oh, it's the Harry Potter you
but
like
which
the best.
one?
Order of the Phoenix?
No. Though I think that one's also pretty good.
Half-Blood Prince?
That's right.
Okay.
Bruno Del Bonell, beautiful inky visuals.
I agree.
There's Love Potion comedy.
That's the one that's
There's
mostly
Jim Broadbent turning into an armchair. That's only happened in like 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah.
I have to say,
It's got a lot of flashbacks.
Order of the Phoenix is kind of underrated.
Order of the Phoenix, the movie.
Yes,
I agree
Order
with
of the Phoenix the fifth one. The fifth one.
Yes,
Yes,
That's
it
the
is
Dumbledore's Army one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's the first David Yates one. And it's him bringing some sort of like juice to the series, in my opinion. He's got a lot of cool design ideas.
Yeah, because Order of the Phoenix was like him doing like, I'm going to do these weird blue tinted like color scheme things. And it works really well with Order of the Phoenix, but then he keeps doing it with the next ones. And I'm like, okay.
I love it. But I also,
like
his design for the Ministry of Magic, where it's all the black tiles, it looks like a weird subway station.
Mm-hmm.
I just think whatever, he gave the thing some juice, and now he clearly still has all the juice from the crimes of Grindelwald and Secrets of Dumbledore. You can tell.
Yeah.
The man still got juice.
Yes.
I'm joking.
It does feel like a bit like a vampire thing where they like gave him a power and now it's like it's draining him. Yes.
Half-Blood Prince good though. It's one of the few summer Potters, much like Azkaban.
Yeah.
That was a summer Potter.
Yeah.
Number 3 at the box office is a cartoon movie about gerbils.
G-Force.
Yeah.
One of those movies that like made $130 million domestic, and it was like, wow, big hit for Disney. And they were like, actually, we lost $300 million on this. And you were like, what? Why was G-Force the most expensive movie ever made?
G-Force was $300 million?
G-Force, I know that Disney did like $100 million write-off on G-Force.
You have brought this up so many times.
It is fascinating.
Yes.
Because it was a hit.
It did all right. Yeah, G-Force did pretty good.
It was like, it was directed by, I think, the guy who was like the special effects supervisor on the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And his son was like, you should make an action movie with gerbils. And then he went to Jerry Bruckheimer and was like, my son said I should make an action movie with gerbils. His dad. Yes.
Son, you should make an action movie with gerbils.
And Jerry Bruckheimer was like, here's $150 million. And then they like tried to do it with state-of-the-art technology at a time where like you could make fucking Beverly Hills Chihuahua for $40 million. No one gave a shit. They were like, what if we make the most photorealistic animals ever? And it just went crazy over budget. And Disney lost their fucking shirt on it. Mickey was shirtless.
He's always shirtless. He just wears suspenders.
Because of G-Force. He wishes he was wearing a shirt.
Number 4 at the box office.
Yeah.
It's a romantic comedy.
Okay.
That dared tell.
The Proposal.
No. Dared tell what, Griffin?
The Ugly Truth.
That's right.
A movie we have argued perhaps killed the rom-com.
But, women's head is in their heart area. Her heart is in their head area.
Right.
Men's heart is in their dick area.
Right. The poster is she's holding a picture of a heart.
Yeah, but then there was the first even blunter.
Oh.
You see where the man's heart is, it's not in the head at all. That's the ugly truth.
But that's a prime example of a movie that was a hit that arguably killed Heigl, Butler.
There they are.
And the career, just romantic comedy as a genre for like 10 years.
Have you seen The Ugly Truth?
I refuse to watch The Ugly Truth.
You know The Ugly Truth? Then you don't know The Ugly Truth.
I watched the
You'll never
trailers for
know.
The Ugly Truth, and I'm like, I'm not watching that movie.
You'd rather live a beautiful lie
I would.
I believe
than
the-
ever
I
know
don't-
the ugly truth.
I would rather, The Ugly Lie for me.
Yeah.
The idea is he's like a talk show host, right? And
He's like Howard Stern,
right,
and they're like,
I'm
you
telling
need-
you the ugly truth.
And
Oh,
she's
I'm Australian for some reason.
David, he's got an American accent. It's one
I'm
of those
telling
like,
you the ugly truth.
hello, I'm Gerard Butler. I'm very much an American guy.
I'm from Nebraska.
Yeah, I do a talk show where I say, guess what? I don't care who's offended. I like having sex with women. And then Katherine Heigl is hired to make him more appealing to women. And then, would you believe it?
They fall in love.
Yeah.
Number 5 at the box office is new this week. It's a bomb. Children's film.
It's a children's film bomb. It's a big bomb. 2009, July 31st. Is it based on anything?
No.
What studio?
20th Century Fox.
It's a big 20th Century Fox bomb. It's not Aliens in the Attic.
It is,
It
in
is.
fact, Aliens in the Attic,
Yeah.
Griffin. You got that in one.
That's one where you're just like, what was the pitch on this?
What if there were aliens in the attic?
And you said yes, and you opened the checkbook for that?
Yeah, well, that's what's number 1. Number 6, the
That's not
huge-
what's number 1. That's what's
no,
number
5. Sorry.
Yeah.
Number 6, the hugely underrated horror Orphan.
Yeah.
Sean Cullen, Sarah. I feel like not underrated anymore because it got that
now
legacy
it's love.
sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like Orphan?
Yeah, no, it's a good movie. And
So good.
surprised that it's been so long since then.
Yeah, that's wild. But that was also one where when it came out, the reviews were like, are they fucking with us? Does this movie know it's insane or not?
And then I feel like his career has demonstrated, like, yes, I'm fully aware of all the insanity.
Orphan is camp.
Yes.
It's highly camp.
Yes, it is the moment.
And it's just one of those, yeah. Or Esther is serving camp.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No.
Esther the Orphan did the thing.
There's something wrong with Esther, and it's that she did the thing. No, just great Vera Farmiga and Peter Sarsgaard, just two great actors to play, like, the fuck is wrong with
Yeah.
you? You know, the whole movie.
Yeah.
You've also got Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Which one is that? 3?
That's 3.
Okay. You've got The Hangover still. You got The Proposal still. Comedy going strong.
Huge.
And then, of course, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, the second and worst.
The biggest film of the summer.
It was a huge
It was
fucking hit.
humongous
It made
hit.
$400 million in the U.S.
Yes.
box office.
Yes, it like opened to 200.
God, do
Yeah.
you like the Transformers movies?
I detest them.
Wow.
So
all
just
of them?
universally?
Everything except Bumblebee, I will say.
Yeah.
Bumblebee's a little cutie pie.
He is a little cute.
I hear he doesn't do much in this new one.
He's in it though.
He's benched. He's in it.
He's in it.
He's in it.
He's
but-
not a beast. He's got to he's got to step back and listen
He's got to sit his ass down
and let some others
wait for the rise of the beast.
for once.
That is the
Neither
US
of you have
box
seen Rise
office.
of the Beast yet, right?
No.
No.
Especially now that I know that Bumblebee is not in it because he's not a beast. He's just he's a
beast.
cute little bumblebee.
Bumblebeast. Make him a beast.
He is, in fact, a giant car. He is not a cute little bumblebee, but he is cuter. Let's see. No, yeah, apparently Pete Davidson's like one of the main Transformers.
I
He's
think
Mirage.
the main.
I heard he's actually quite good in this too.
Yeah, I can see that. Fuck, Ron Perlman is Optimus Primal?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, monkey.
The fuck?
Yes, Michelle Yeoh plays
Michelle Yeoh.
Yes,
Airazor?
Air Razor.
Airazor. She
Yeah.
turns into a peregrine falcon,
Correct.
apparently.
Yeah,
Okay.
is Cheetor in it? Rat Trap.
I don't know what you're talking
Arachnia?
about. Cheetor is in it.
Who plays Cheetor?
Tongai Chirizia,
Okay, no Rat
a
Trap. though.
Zimbabwean actor.
He was my favorite character.
I can't keep track of the nonsense you're saying.
Rat Trap.
Coleman Domingo apparently voices Unicron.
Eater of Worlds.
Yeah.
Unicron's like the Galactus of the Transformers.
See, I
saga.
don't know any of this shit.
I don't either.
I don't know any
I
of
was
this
gonna say I don't
fucking-
either, but I'm saying.
Yeah,
do.
you're the one who's saying, "Oh,
You
what
know
about
at
this
least
guy?"
a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not really into it, but I know it.
Yeah, literally every time I read a Transformers article, my eyes glaze over, and I'm like, "Yeah, something about cars."
Well, the other problem is anytime I'm like, I love lore. I don't like the Transformers movies or anything, but I'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, let me read a clean Wikipedia page. And it's like, no, there's like 18 different kinds of Transformers
Sure.
things. So there's not even like sort of like a unified canon I can enjoy.
I like that the lore exists. Do you know what I'm
But I
saying? Like, I
think
don't
it's like-
care
it's
about
up
it.
its
but
own
I like,
ass.
yeah, that's what I kind of like about it.
The more
no,
convoluted, the better.
correct. Unicron was the Orson Welles character. That was his final performance.
I know that. No, I know. He's a
Right.
planet.
He is a planet. He eats other planets.
We love a planet-eating planet.
Yeah.
It's just fucking Galactus.
Yeah.
They just ripped it off.
Yeah, except he transforms. from a planet into a planet with arms and legs.
All right, I gotta go home.
Oh, now you gotta go home?
Yeah.
I start talking about Unicron, suddenly you gotta go home?
Yeah. I'm out of here.
Okay. Hoi-Tran, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Such a great guest.
Gotta come back.
Overdue.
Yes. I'm also not at all resentful that you guys didn't invite me for the Ghibli series.
That was several years ago.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's all right. It's fine. I'm not the biggest Ghibli fan of all time or anything, but
Wait, are you?
apologies.
Oh my God. Wait. Well,
what's your favorite?
We'll talk. Yeah, what is your favorite?
Spirited Away. It's a pretty basic one, but it's my favorite.
The correct answer. Do you have a favorite Takahata?
Oh, Takahata.
Because I feel like we'll do him eventually.
I do love Princess Kaguya.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That movie's incredible.
It is.
I was looking, because there was this story. I'm sure it has changed by the time this episode comes out. But at this very moment, Across the Spider-Verse is the highest rated film in the history of Letterboxd.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Just early
It beat
positive
Come and
first wave.
See.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I was just curious, like, what is the Letterboxd top 50, and how many of those movies have we covered, and like, what are the highest rated movies that we've covered? And there are actually quite a few Park Chan-Wook films in the top 50 alone.
Okay.
Handmaiden, I think, is pretty high up there.
That's an early Letterboxd fave too. That came out right when Letterboxd was getting hot.
Spirited Away is like number 4.
As it should be.
I've said it's the best film ever made.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We should talk.
We'll do a second Ghibli
I've
series.
rewatched it 60 times.
Wow.
I have not seen it 60 times.
How many times have you watched Ponyo?
Oh, 15
Okay.
more, a lot.
It's
But
because I
don't
put
think I've seen
Spirited
any
Away on
movies.
when I did laundry, so that's why.
Gotcha.
Well,
it was a ritual.
Spirited Away is like this special like jewel in a box that I will take out in my toughest times. Maybe I should watch Spirited Away.
You going through some stuff?
Oh, the air's on fire. No,
That's true.
Apart from that,
Yeah.
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Just very stressed out yesterday with all the air on fire.
Oh, not me. I felt very normal. As you know, I never extrapolate.
Yeah, well, you never you're out there
worst.
extra. I just got that kid. You're just sort of like, what am I supposed to do here? And and your kid's like, go outside, and you're like, I can't go outside.
Yeah.
Stressful.
Bad. It looked like when he has the fucking vision of the ocean being full with blood at the end of Thirst.
It didn't not look like that.
It did look like that. Do you have anything you want to plug?
I would like to plug my own podcast.
Yes.
Trekking Through Time and Space. It's a Doctor Who Star Trek watch podcast that I run with Jacob Hall of Slash Film.
Right.
You can find it on all your podcasting
But
platforms.
tell me, tell me how do you do this?
Okay. So I have never seen Star Trek.
You have never seen Star Trek.
Jacob had never seen Doctor Who.
Okay.
Never seen any series, any
of the
version.
series.
Okay.
I'd seen the movies, the Abrams movies, but
Okay.
I'm a Doctor Who fan. Jacob is a Star Trek fan, and we decided to get together and show each other our favorite shows.
So each episode is like one of each?
It is.
You're
It's
each
one of
picking like a curated episode for the other to watch, or are you going through
We're
order?
going chronologically, baby.
All right, I love that.
Okay, so
Great,
where-
thank you.
where
See,
are
I
you?
like these kinds of formats.
absolutely.
I knew there was a good form. Right, yeah, first episode where No Man Has Gone Before in Rose. So you're starting with the rebooted Russell
We're
T.
starting
Davis.
with the rebooted of
Doctor Who,
Russell
right.
T. Davies, Doctor Who, but then we are going to be going back to the classic Who at some point. We're going to be doing a temporal pincer movement.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. So
But you can't watch some of those early ones. They like don't exist.
They don't
Maybe You
exist,
just like threw them in the
exactly.
garbage.
Do you know there's some of the ones where they still have only the audio, and they've now started animating them, which is kind of
Believe me,
cool.
They
I'm
recently
aware.
found
Believe
some.
you're aware?
Those guys are crazy.
Which guys are crazy?
Whovians, like the true.
Who's
Doctor
the one
Who.
who's telling you about this, though?
Like so I went to school in London, and you're not allowed to make fun of that. And
It's very serious.
and there was a Star Trek Society, and like they watched Star Trek episodes at lunchtime. You go check it out. It's a little, it was a little dorky. They like fairly mainstream dorks. Star Trek was like on TV, right? When we were kids, when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
That was like primetime stuff. Doctor Who was off the air when
That
I
was
was
a pretty
teenager.
neglected moment.
It
in
was,
Doctor Who's
because the
history.
whole 90s and
Yeah.
much of the 2000s, there's no Doctor Who.
Right.
Except for the one movie with Paul McGann.
The failed sort of pilot.
With
Yeah.
Eric Roberts as the
Yes.
master.
Yes.
And there was a Doctor Who Society, right,
Okay.
as well. And they would watch, but that would be a thing where you're like, okay, so you're a teenager like me. This has never been on while you were a kid.
Sure.
So you are obsessed with a dead franchise that exists in sort of videotape form.
It's like me being obsessed with Buster Keaton movies.
Yeah, and like, I was not judgmental of it, but it was definitely, it was a sort of a deeper, more devoted, kind of quainter form of nerdery.
Sure.
They were like the true nerds.
They're idealists.
They, a little bit. It was very sweet. And also, like, I love those old Doctor Who. I haven't seen that many of them, but I've seen a fair amount of them. And they're quaint as well because they're, you know,
I was going to say,
vintage.
I feel like so much of the attitude was like, well, they had no money to make any of this and it all looks bad, but the ingenuity.
Yeah, and the story writing and all that.
They had no money and a dream.
Yes.
It's, anyway, so that sounds fun going back.
So what are you up to now?
Well, that's a great question.
Oh, unfortunately, well, we're going back and forth between Doctor Who and the spin-off. So we're doing some Torchwood right now.
Oh, interesting.
So we are at this point we're finishing up Torchwood Miracle Day, which is terrible.
Okay. I never touched any of Torchwood.
Is that the last Torchwood? Because there was
the last Torchwood.
Because the one before that was pretty good, right?
Yes. Children of Earth is
that one's good.
Probably some of the best sci-fi TV I've seen in a while.
Right. Torchwood season 1 I remember being very mixed.
It's very mixed. It's very...
That's the nicest way to put it.
Yes, up and down. But yeah, right now we're in Star Trek TNG and Torchwood Miracle Day. But we're soon moving on to Doctor Who Season 6.
I mean, I guess you guys truly picked the most bottomless of franchises. You really can't stop.
We can go forever.
Right, yeah. Because you're in the middle of season 2 of TNG.
We are.
I was fanatical about Doctor Who through the middle of the Matt Smith.
Sure, I think a lot of people fell off sort of middle end of Matt Smith.
But it's so daunting to even get back into it now.
Well, I think the new one's going to be kind of a reset,
It's a nice reset. Russell T Davies is back.
Right.
And we have a new Doctor. We have David Tennant coming back before the new Doctor, played by Shuji Gawa, comes on.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a good reset. You can join in again. Although I will say, as one of the people who fell off in the middle of the Matt Smith, well, actually at the end of the Matt Smith era, and then
you didn't watch the Capaldi one.
I didn't watch it. Yeah. I came back to Capaldi, and now Capaldi, I believe, is the best Doctor.
He was amazing. It's just that the show. Maybe I had my problems.
The thing. I got
his performance
towards the end of the Matt Smith run, but Capaldi is like, well, that's of course exactly who should be playing the Doctor.
He is incredible.
Yeah,
like literally every scene with him. I'm just like, I need more of you. I need 5 more seasons of this. So yeah.
No, I agree with that. I watched pretty much all the Capaldi.
What are your Jodie Whittaker thoughts?
The show just stunk with it. Wasn't her fault.
Not her fault.
She's pretty charming.
She was poorly served by very inconsistent writing and one that didn't know how to characterize its own Doctor.
Who was the showrunner at that point?
Chris Chibnall.
Okay.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
The Broadchurch guy. I mean, that was his big claim to fame. He did Broadchurch.
He did Broadchurch. He did a good job with that, and he has some good ideas, but he doesn't know how to follow through with them on any Doctor Who episode that he's written.
Right, because he did Torchwood as well, right?
He did.
Yeah. Don't get me started. Oh boy, I used to really give a shit about that stuff.
Loved it.
Yeah,
yeah. I never watched Torchwood. I never watched Sarah Jane Adventures.
No, I mean at a certain point, like there's only so many hours in the day.
And then going back to the earlier stuff just felt like
daunting.
60th
anniversary of Doctor Who this year, guys.
Is that what it is? Fuck. Best theme song of all time, except for maybe ER.
I don't know. There's this show that was on starring Ted Danson.
Becker?
Had a certain theme song.
God, I wish I could remember the Becker theme song. David, could you play it quickly? I haven't heard this thing in years.
What?
This is from
that was a good theme song.
Yeah,
as I remember.
Absolutely. But I can't even. Oh, wait a second. Was the Doctor in the house?
Hoi-Tran, we were doing a whole bit about this.
Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance? Yeah. Somehow we spent half that episode talking about Becker and played this theme song.
Do you even know what Becker is?
I've never heard of Becker
with Ted Danson. I don't even know how old you are. You may have been a child when Becker was on TV.
What if House was more of an asshole and he didn't actually solve anyone's problems?
He solves problems. Well, I don't know. He probably writes you
in the same way.
It's always Lupus in this case.
Yeah, it actually always is Lupus. Right. It's just like, Lupus, on you go.
Yeah. Becker always says it's Lupus, but it isn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
Anyway, wait, play the Becker thing. I want to take us out.
I literally just... All right, fine. I'll do it again. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media. Why don't we just do this every episode now? Thank you to Joe Bone and Pat Reynolds for our artwork. Jenny Birch for our theme song. Adrian Keenox Baron for our editing. Lee Montgomery, the Grand Canal. I said that one already. Go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including our Patreon Blank Check special features.
Whoa, what's going on?
It just loaded up another video called Dr. Becker on political correctness that I don't know if we want to listen to.
No, we definitely don't. Keep going with the outro.
Is he a surgeon?
He's a neighborhood doctor.
Yeah. He works in the Bronx. But he's an old school New Yorker. Blank Check special features, Patreon, film series. We're doing the oceans. No oceans full of blood, just oceans full of stars.
Yeah, movie stars.
Movie stars. And of course, we have our free membership on Patreon where every 10 days we unlock an episode from 3 years ago. So that's Mission Impossible series right now.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I think yes.
Priming the pump for Dead Reckoning Part 1.
A few days ago, we had Trolls, The Experience with Richard Lawson.
That's an early COVID episode.
That is an episode describing the last thing we did before lockdown, basically.
Griff, I have to pee. How much of this?
Oh, I misread that.
It doesn't matter. Enough.
You're right. It was Mission Impossible.
Well, I was right. Tune in next week for...
Well, I'm sorry. You put me on the spot. Stoker.
Yeah.
Do you like Stoker?
I do like Stoker.
Yeah.
Stoker with Emily St. James. Return to the show. Far too long. And as always, from here on out, every episode ends with the Becker theme. Play it again.
No.
Play it again.
We'll play it in post. Let's just
play
go.
it live. Okay, now you can go pee, David.
You don't like me pointing the microphone at my laptop? That's not a thing you like?
I mean, it's not helpful.